Ready? All right. I'd like to go ahead and call this Halfmoon Township Budget Meeting number 2 on October 19th at 6 p.m. to order. We didn't do Pledge of Allegiance last time, did we?
No, we didn't.
We should, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we should.
I apologize for that. I'll stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I just realized. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Yeah, for those watching, sorry about that.
Yeah, nobody
Last time
caught it
our
last time.
Budget meetings are a little out of the ordinary, so.
Yeah. All right, so we had our first budget meeting last week with some outstanding questions, and we asked Denise and staff to do a little bit of work for us, and I think they're ready to present some information for us, right?
We are.
Okay.
So we went line by line as requested from the board, and the request was to cut where we could and get creative with ideas to find a way to balance our budget. So I just want to start by saying, I just want to show this real quick because I think it's important we start looking at our general fund, and really once we get the general fund down, we have it set up so that everything else will kind of fall into place and balance out evenly, and that way we won't show up as deficit spending.
You may need to increase that so that everybody
Oh,
can see. 'Cause I'm-
goodness.
Whoa, that's okay.
Okay. So what this is that the DCED reports that we have at the end of the year always show our excess or deficit revenues over expenditures. And this shows, if I can make it larger yet. So this shows in 2019 there was a deficit spend in the capital projects. And then in 2018, deficit spending in all of our funds. And in 2017, a deficit spend in state liquid fuels. And then in 2016, everything was kind of kosher. Great. So the idea is if we get everything in the general fund, Brett and I have set it up so that all the other funds will make sure that it balances out so that we won't show any deficit. So with that, what we came up with as a solution is instead of $81,000 per year, it would be $37,000 for the next 10 years in Park and Rec, $30,000 for the next 10 years in capital equipment, which for $67,000. And what this would be an implement of a 1.7 fire mill tax and a 2.52 general fund tax increase. With those numbers, it's going to come out to an income balance, and then we'll actually be in the positive versus deficit spending. And that gives us a little bit of wiggle room. If you look what we did, and I didn't send this out, but we did increase our revenues and updated projections so that instead of 25%, we're at 15%. We changed some of the numbers for income based off of projections and what we've seen, but generally they stay about the same. What we noticed is in expenses, we were able to make a lot of cuts in different places, and we got updated numbers. So the CNET actually came in lower than we had budgeted, and some of the other items we were able to reduce. COG, I have updated numbers. That amount is kind of stagnant. It is what it is. We're, again, with 2020, where we're at with that. We cut manager travel and expenses down to just $500. We've cut a lot of the legal ads and legal costs. So we reduced legal down. So it's actually less than what we budgeted for this year. We've also looked at the codification. I kept it about 6 only because we will have codification costs. The wages, again, are stagnant. There's no raises. We've cut down the zoning officer. We did cut down to just a $500 cut. We're not necessarily comfortable with that. We feel like that's actually going to go up, but we will do our best to control those costs. The software and updates, we did get some of the items for the years coming up for replacements. Those were approved in our grant already. They were pre-approved, but the software and licensing, the licensing you can't prepay ahead, so some of that wasn't approved. Engineering, we kept high because we feel like we talked about we're going to bring the engineer in for more of the subdivision and land development reviews as we do that as a group. That way it's a more cohesive plan. Telephone and public utilities, we negotiated it so we'll have a 3-year deal for internet and phone. We'll have more services. We talked about that briefly, and it saved us $500 between the two. Building maintenance and cleaning, that's still a reduction over last year. Fire protection, what we did is we took all of the fire protection out and put that into the fire protection fund. We also took all of the liquid fuels items that we could and took it out of the general fund and put it straight into liquid fuels, other than pay. That becomes a paperwork nightmare that isn't worth it. So we took all of our 438 items out and put it into liquid fuels. We kept EMS the same. No change in public works salaries.
Did you keep the part-time or not the
Nope, we removed the
Okay, thank
person.
you.
We removed that person.
New hire, the 6-month new hire.
Yep,
Okay.
that was removed. Again, all the items that we could for 438, we took out and put into general or into liquid fuels. Reduced, even though this was a little higher, we reduced it a little bit because, again, we have a park now that we have to maintain. We reduced some of the movie night, so this really is only a small increase over the whole thing to get an additional event. We changed this out based off of, so the defined contribution plan versus the defined benefit plan, and we'll be going over that on Thursday. I increased it to what my recommendation is of 6% and then removed a employee for 6 months out of the year. And then the 37,000 that we'll need to transfer each year, and the 30,000, we took out the 18 so that liquid fuels isn't getting any money from the general fund for any type of road projects. So we can make it a year or two, but we'll have to reevaluate. And then that kind of gave us a pretty decent evening out. What we came up with, like I said, is that 1.02 we originally discussed, plus 1.5 mils, which would be a temporary tax, in order to pay off the debts that we've incurred and not made a plan to pay off long term. So that would be a short term, the intent would be a short term tax, and the board can reevaluate it every year.
You mean out of the 2.52?
No, yes, out of the 2.52
So after so long, that 1.5 would come off and
Is
it would
intended
only
to
be
drop
1
off.
point.
If it's not renewed.
Right. One of the things that we put together is also, I wanted to show you, this is your taxes as they existed in the past. So it's your entire mills, what goes to the general fund, what goes to open space, and what goes to fire. So it gives you an idea of the history and how it's kind of been all over the place. So we came up with a solution.
What would that bring with the total mills then?
Okay, now I know. I guess.
So when we look at the revenues, your total mill rate would be 0.55 or 5.5.
From 4.98.
Yes. No,
No.
2.98. Because
Oh.
2 mills is in your open space.
Okay.
Where does that put us as far as the center region and the amount of taxes levied on residents?
I would have to take a look as to what every other municipality is, but I know right now we are,
Yeah, I know we're the lowest. I'm
Lowest.
wondering if we will continue to be the lowest, or, because I mean, it's not a tremendous tax increase, and we are the lowest right now by far, actually. So,
You can, it's on the Center County.
yeah, I could figure
Site.
it out. I just thought maybe you knew.
Where to start? It's terrible English, but I am more okay with the fire tax. A little bit less with the other tax, only because I want to make sure that if we are raising taxes, this is kind of like a reactive tax raise based on purchases and things that we have already done, versus targeting something proactively to raise taxes for. So I just want to make sure, I'm kind of a little bit in the same boat with Dave. I want to make sure we're doing everything we can line item wise to take care of our own previous purchases that we didn't plan for, versus putting that burden on residents.
And and that's kind of what this actually is doing. Unfortunately, we had to make the transfer so high because if we didn't, your capital reserves would go into deficit. So that unfortunately is where we're at this point with those.
Okay. One thing I was saying before everybody got here too is that we don't know exactly, we're estimating 15% less revenue. That's a safer side. Of course, you want to be safer with budgeting. So it's hard to make that call and be that board that might increase taxes when we don't really have a super clear picture if that's actually going to happen or not. So that's where I'm, a little bit struggling with it.
I agree. I cringe at the thought of raising taxes, but numbers don't lie. I like the idea of having at least part of any tax raise be something that can be reviewed on an annual or semi-annual basis. I think that's a very good idea, because if you have that tax and then you get yourself into a position where you don't need it anymore, you do away with it and you give the money, you stop taking the residents' money. I think we do need to go through this a little more, slowly, with line by line on certain. I personally have about 13 points where I'm sure you probably have similar ones, but I think we need to each take a look at whatever we highlighted for ourselves, just to see what was done up there and see if maybe individually we might have a suggestion that could, make the cut a little deeper, or lobby to not cut an item. I mean, we all have our own interests. So, I don't know. That's what I have to say on it. And if we want to,
We didn't go over some of these individual funds yet, did we?
no, because we modified those individual funds to basically make it so that if the general fund gets corrected, they will fall right into place, and that will be the hour, hopefully, on Thursday.
Those are basically fixed expenses.
No, we changed those, so those old ones had a 18,000 general fund contribution going into liquid fuels to help boost any type of road project we had. Well, we took that out because we just don't have that kind of money to increase our road projects. We also took a look at the DCED reports and showed the deficit spending that I pulled up earlier. And so the transfer of 37,000 was suggested as 28 for the first year, but that actually does put us in a deficit when we fill out the DCED reports for the year with our projections. So those numbers change. So basically, if everything in the general fund comes out even, they will all stay within a net positive balance. So those have all changed now too.
But the expense items, though, that you have listed for each one wouldn't change, is that correct?
No, they did change.
Oh, they did?
Because, well,
Okay.
the loans are the same,
Right.
but we took items out of the general fund for liquid fuels. So, some road repair, the crack sealer, for example, We took the crack sealer out, and that's a liquid fuels eligible expense, so we put it in liquid fuels. Now, that means in 2 years, like when we look at liquid fuels, if you want to do a quick little analysis, in 2 years, you're about done. You can't do a project in that third year.
Unless
But-
we get money to put in there, yeah,
Right, but the idea is, how do we get through?
this next year, and then we can, yeah.
You have things in here for capital equipment, we need to talk over some of that stuff, right? Like if we're gonna actually spend for some of that,
The only thing in capital equipment for 2021
The loan payment.
is the
is
loan.
the loan
Ah,
payment, yeah.
have a choice on that.
Yeah,
So-
That's
okay.
where there really
I mean,
isn't
the
anything.
And that's- is that-
projections.
That's the same for the park fund?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, Okay, that was my
More
question,
expenses.
basically, yeah, okay.
Which, again, if we get general funds down,
We have,
we've got it.
right,
So if
okay.
we focus on this next year, we could do I don't know if you want to do line item by line item. I'm going to throw this out there
Either way, I
for,
mean, it's just
Yeah.
somehow I think we all need to have our points.
did you remove the 2 donations?
Um,
It's not grand amounts, but like Chuck said, every little bit helps. So the
I
spring.
did not. I
Spring-
cut them in half.
One at a time. Spring Creek Watershed, so we can decide if we want to not do that this next year. Spring Creek Watershed, 1,054, and CBICC, 1,000.
You know, both of
So
those are
I
on my list, thank you.
recommended maybe dropping those off this next year. Thoughts?
I had in my notes
Oh,
to
just-
reduce both of those
Oh,
by
okay.
50%. Or 100, I figured there would be some kind of debate. But, yeah, it's only got a couple $1,000s, but every little bit helps. So,
Thoughts?
I don't like the idea of raising taxes because I'm still waiting for the 6% sales tax to go away.
I think you're gonna wait a long time, Dave.
It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
And if we increase the taxes, it's never gonna happen because Ferguson, Harris, College, the borough, they'll all raise taxes and they'll say, well, look, their taxes are higher than ours. We're not them. I think we ought to get down line by line. I mean, I don't know that I got enough here to clean things out, but
I didn't either.
Yeah.
When I
if
scoured,
I vote to raise taxes, I agree that fire tax is probably an appropriate thing, but I'm having a real hard time with $57,000 for a library. I'm having a real hard time with 100-some thousand for the COG. I mean, I know they offer planning services, but there's a lot of money and a lot of happy people in there. When I was in there today, there weren't a lot of cars in the parking lots. Everybody's working at home or sleeping or doing some good somewhere else, but they're not there. So, I mean, I think people need to know where their money's going. I mean, when I started looking into this thing and I saw how much money we were paying the Center Region, I was floored. I mean, it used to just be a good chunk of change, and then it got to be really expensive.
one of the things that I did this past weekend, this is me categorizing, so I would love maybe to do this for us, to look at this at a macro level instead of the micro line item level, which I think you want to do with the line items, rolling them up. So I kind of just very quickly went through and categorized employee expenses, fire EMS, roads, public works, operating, planning, parks and community. And I just wanted to know, like, what percentage of our budget is going to each of these things, just like a pie chart. Of course, like any company or business, employee expenses are the most. So 46% of our budget goes to employee expenses,
Our employees.
our employees. And when I looked at like what discretionary versus non-discretionary, like what we have to pay, only $10,000 is professional development, mileage, whatever, which is like 1% of it or something. So it's just, those are employee costs. That's what we got. So then when I looked at the other things, fire EMS was 12.5%. We kind of already knew that. 12.5% for fire EMS. May change based on if we do the fire tax. Operating expenses is 12.5%. So 12.5% of our budget is keeping the lights on and keeping things going. And I know that staff already nickels and dimes and tries to cut as much as possible. Unless contracts or things like that change, there's probably not a whole lot that we're going to be able to do because you got to run the business. Planning. So I was kind of lumping planning. So that's like some zoning. That's the planning from COG that we pay for, was 8% of our budget. So the reason I kind of did this is to see does this seem appropriate based on what we want to be doing? So I was kind of trying to roll it up like, is this where we want to distribute our money and how we want to distribute it based on what may be coming, especially in 2021? If we don't think we're going to have as much planning going on, as much need for that, is there any way to possibly reduce that? And then the parks and community, I lumped the library into that because that's a community service. It's like an offer for them. 10% of our budget goes to parks community. So when I was kind of looking at it that way, it seemed like a reasonable distribution, but that's where, maybe we can kind of look at some of those chunks to see, are we comfortable with those numbers? Do we want to lower here, raise here? And that might help target some of our discussion.
Now, what I'd like to do is, I'm gonna say there's no sacred cows at this point.
Yeah,
But what I'd like to do is go down through the budget line by line. If we can all agree to
Let's do
reduce
it.
individual line items, Denise can put that up on the machine and see where we're at when we're done.
okay.
And if we feel that we're comfortable as a board with the reductions that we have, and then we can see what else we want to do or don't want to do.
I'm okay with that.
But-
Well, then we can also play with the tax rate. There might be some tax increase, but we can determine what
Yeah,
that is.
sure.
Right,
Yeah.
but I don't want to put the tax increase out there now. I think it's too easy to say, well, we'll just grab another bill and
Yeah,
what the hey. And like I said last time, and to repeat myself, I don't want to raise taxes this year especially because of the people that are having a hard time. And we have a few people in this township that are having a hard time.
oh, I'm sure, everybody does.
And I don't want to, I know the school district's going to burn everybody because that's their nature. But if we don't have to contribute to that, I don't want to contribute to that. So if we can agree that we'll go down through line by line, we'll try to, I mean, there's some things in here, it's like, like contribute money to our donations or whatever. I'd like to donate.
Sure,
I like the organization.
me too.
But really, I can't say to the township people this year, now maybe we can do something in 2022. But this year, like I said, everything gets the axe unless we have justification for it. And I know we're locked into some computer stuff and that has to be done. It's a $28,000 chunk. That's a lot of money.
It is.
So
Yeah, let's
for a
do
little
it.
dinky township, and our telephone bills are ridiculous. But I don't know if there's anything we can do about it or not. If we can't, I mean, maybe we can't. Or maybe we just need to use the radios and call out to the shop instead. So, all phone calls go through Denise's office, so.
It's a small town. If you yell out the window, somebody will hear
Where to
you.
go, so.
So if you'd like, I can start by taking this back to the 298, and you can see that our expense, sorry. Lots of
can add it
scrolling.
back if
We're
we
still
get
about
done.
150,000 short, so we'll start there.
That was without the general fund tax.
That's, yeah, without any increase other than the fire tax.
With the fire, okay,
So
that's
that's-
good, let's do it.
Okay, so with revenues, we'll start there. We changed this and updated our estimates based off of the fact that we have 225 now. We changed it to a 95% collection rate. Yep. The other change we made is this 356 for our earned income tax. We changed that to only have 15% reduction, not 25. Okay? The cable franchise agreement, that changed slightly. And I think that's because what we did is we made it more realistic with a 5% reduction in today's cost. So while there were cord cutters, I just took a 5% reduction in the expected income for this year.
Question for Denise, is that linked to CNET? Is there some kind of tie between CNET and cable TV franchise deal?
There's PEG fees that are included in that, and that's we have a 10-year agreement. That it is what it is, Dave. I've tried very hard. That's right. That's for the public right of way. That's per subscriber, how much we get.
Yeah.
But it's based on who subscribes. So That was
No,
just
that's
signed.
not what my question was, and this probably has more to do with the expense side, but we pay like 18 grand a year to CNET. Okay, is that based on the number of meetings that we have, or how is that?
The CNET formula has to do with the PEG subscriber fees plus how many programs we ask them to come and attend. So if we wanted our planning commission covered, it's how many programs, and there's a whole formula. I can
Right.
go back into a,
Okay, well, we'll get to that when it happens, but I didn't know if the revenue was based on that
No,
also
they're not
coming back or
related.
something.
revenue's based on the number of subscribers.
Okay, all right.
And so
continue,
that
please.
accounts for a 5% reduction for people who are going to be cutting the cord.
Yep,
Everything else stays pretty consistent. Not seeing any other changes for income. So that made your income to 794, 110, and it was at 742, 096. Okay, so 794, 110. That's with rounding. No sense. Let's not.
Rounding is fine.
Great. Then we'll go to the expenses again. Supervisors doesn't change. That stays at your 9375. What did change is this Center County, or I'm sorry, this is the CNET. That we had estimated with a 5% increase. That actually came in lower, so that's changed to 15,889.
all right, first sacred cow. I know we have 2 meetings a month, that's all CNET attends, correct?
Yes.
Do we need them here every meeting, or can we cut back on the number of meetings? I mean, if you divide that out, that's a lot of money to have them come here, and I know there are people that watch it, but not a lot of people watch it.
It's a transparency issue. I'm afraid, I feel like if we start
Well,
taking away the
I'm not-
coverage of it, we're gonna have folks
I'm not
wondering what
saying
the
we
hell
cut
we're
the
doing.
thing out, I'm just saying that, you know, maybe the summer months, we only go to 1 meeting a month, maybe we go to 1 meeting a month in February and March.
So my intention.
Kind of a goal of Denise's anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, my intention is we're gonna have one planning commission meeting a month moving forward in 2021. And the intent is, if we get everything organized real good, you should only have one board meeting a month. I should be able to cancel the second one. We should have everything pretty tight, and that also helps by having that one planning commission. It
We
gives me
went-
timelines that I
We
can
went
move
from 1 to
forward.
2 a month because we were having so many subdivisions come through back in the 90s that you literally could not get through the meeting without 2 or 3 lots, subdivisions, replots, whatever happening in front of the board. And it was just crushing us. You know, the meetings were run until 11 o'clock at night, which nobody wants.
Yeah, I've been in
But,
1
but
AM meetings.
that
It's-
pressure, I don't see that pressure happening in 2021 and maybe 2022 till something goes on, but I know of nothing in the works right now.
So
So
can we circle that one to explore what that would
we
look
won't be
like?
able to reduce it because it's
contract.
based off of a 3-year rolling
Yeah.
formula. So it's kind of stuck where it is.
Paying that much money for 3 years, even though we don't have them come out.
No, it's not, we're stuck paying that for 3 years. The formula that we use is a 3-year rolling formula. So by reducing the number of meetings we have moving forward, that will help reduce our fees moving forward. But
But
what
not
it is
now.
now is kind of what it is.
But, so we gotta pay 18 or $16,000 or whatever it is there.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens next year, if we only have 12 meetings.
Yep.
It's the same.
Right, but you're reducing,
Formula for the following.
Why do we agree to this stuff?
Because this was the transparency issue. It's not, it was
No,
a matter
I
of
don't-
having our,
I have a problem with having the
Yeah.
CNET come. I have a problem with getting locked into 3-year contracts
Mm.
on things for, I mean, they're a governmental entity. You know, they're part of the COG or they're part of something. I mean, you know,
We're actually independent of COG.
yeah.
all right, but, you know, it's still a 3-year deal. It kind of smacks of COG, you know, make a 3-year contract,
separate entity.
but
That's just to protect them so they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it's about. It's you want to have coverage of these kind of meetings because then without coverage, without folks
Well, people used
watching
to
what
fill
you're
this
doing,
room up.
that's how you get misinformation throughout the community about what's going on in the
Well,
meetings.
we don't have
and-
to argue the use of it, because basically this dollar amount for this
So
year
we
is
have
what
no
it is.
choice on
Correct.
it.
For
All
this
right, well,
year.
if we got no choice, we got no
Going forward, we
choice.
can reduce it
Yeah.
by reducing our meetings as we
Yes,
go.
if we're diligent in how we handle meetings and how we have things laid out in the future, the more efficient we become, the more efficient our numbers come.
Yeah, that works for me, if we can reduce the number of meetings we actually have.
My intent
And
is to
th-
stay
and that would bring that
advertised
down.
to a
All right,
month.
well then, let us put on the calendar to discuss reducing the number of board meetings and planning commission meetings or whatever.
Yep.
So that we don't have this come back and burn us in 2023.
And the idea is you'd advertise 2 a month, and it's a lot less expensive to cancel a second one
Yep.
than it is to advertise for a meeting you didn't advertise for.
Okay,
Okay,
what's the $180 down there?
all right, okay, hold on, moving forward.
We have the Spring Creek contribution in this category.
Yes.
Yes, so I've reduced the Spring Creek contribution by 50%. Bob, I used your exact same idea, which was that contribution cut in half.
And
I am
you
in
know-
favor at this point because we're discussing just wiping out all our contributions until we know where we're at.
That's what I'm kind of thinking of too.
Just
We don't
bulk.
have that many contributions.
No, we
No, we
don't,
only
but,
have a few, but
but
still.
we have got to scrimp every penny
Yeah.
to make this work.
Yeah, I don't, for the sake of argument, I don't have a problem with taking out, like you said, every contribution we would have, and then maybe at the end, if we like where we are,
If
then
we're
maybe
happy, we
we
can
can trickle
do
some
something,
stuff
but-
back into those,
Yeah.
but if you just wanna lop them off for now, and
what's the
we can talk about them
300 there?
later.
That's another contribution. Watershed contribution.
How is
Yeah.
that different than Spring Creek contribution? I thought it was,
It's a different contribution, so it's based off of our population. It's however many residents we have
oh,
at 10 cents each. So,
okay.
yeah.
So-
We're talking $300 and we're trying to save money right now, so I'm just in favor of dumping it until we get this thing worked out.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. It's not a required contribution?
I don't believe it's required, no.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I'm
if
not
it's not in the
familiar with
budget,
it.
they're not getting it anyway, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Okay,
Okay. The COG dues, I have to apologize. I had a number in there from 2018. I looked at a wrong column. So this does have an overall increase, but the numbers are now accurate and updated with the new costs since the insurance change. We just got those numbers sent out late last week. So this is the new updated numbers, but it should be noted that what you have printed in local planning services, I had used a number from 2018. That was my fault, so these are now updated.
Is it possible we reduce that to a quarter of his time or half his time?
So I caution the board changing that, and there's a couple of reasons for this. In the past, the board has been very reactionary to items coming up for planning, and I'd like to move to a more proactive approach. And in doing this, I will need those planning services. So this is, the riparian buffer ordinance that we just updated. That got done in, 3 months? Which
Yeah,
is,
they're the ones that got it here in the first place, so. We had to undo what they planned to do. It wasn't like we came up with it, they came up with it.
it wasn't something that this planner even came up with. So the point is the idea is I want to keep those planning services as much as possible, because even though 33% isn't a whole lot, I think that moving forward, when we're looking at how to find ways to correct some of these deficiencies in income, we had talked about how we changed the fee schedule and how it hadn't been updated since 1997. There are other ways that we can help the township retain some of their earnings. We instituted these bill backs, right? And we're,
Just remember the county planner's free. And he used to work for COG.
so some of these things that I'd like to move forward with require some help through planning. Now, these numbers also are what we've told COG that we would agree to. I think again, we would have to change that in a budget moving forward, so those won't change until 2022 if you want to make those changes. But I caution you, because again, the planner does,
Bad things a lot of times until, if you get them right first time up front.
Right.
It's
The,
better.
the planner also does our planning commission meetings and facilitates those, so that would then fall back on staff to do. And I don't know where we're gonna find the extra time for us to take on that extra added responsibility.
Catch more things up front than staff will too, as they're discussing these things and add to the discussion.
Yes, I highly recommend you proceed with caution.
Here than the COG planner. If you're looking at subdivision stuff, I think his opinion is probably more valid than a planner, but, and I know you don't feel that way, but
Well, I think they're both
They're-
valid. You need both.
Both. We really do need higher engineering costs too, because I think.
we're not gonna get it this year, so.
No.
Right, but I think those ideas of how that planning falls into place, we're
I
deficient.
just don't see the planner working for us for 20 hours a week, or actually probably whatever they do, 17 and a half, I
So-
guess.
Our planner's in the office every Tuesday and Thursday, and
Well, we
is,
may have to cut back on that. I don't know. I mean, we've got to squeeze some money out of somewhere, and I don't know where we're going to get it. I mean, I've been down through here, you know,
From the perspective, this is why I did these macro grouping things, because as a local government agency or group, our primary responsibilities are safety of the community.
of all.
Roads, safety, planning, housing, development, whatever you want to call that, and community development. So when we look at the main things that we are here for, I'm okay having money around planning. That's 8% of our budget is towards planning resources. That includes engineer, that includes local planner, because that's one of the huge chunks that we should be focusing on. So I'm okay with that. I'd rather cut other things than one of the primary responsibilities
All right.
of a local
Well, we'll
government.
step down through it
But-
and keep on going then.
But let's go, yeah, let's keep going.
I'm sorry, but just clarify something for me before we move on from the planner. I was writing something down over here and I missed it what exactly happened? Why was this 48,000 and that was 61,000?
I put in a number, I was fortunately, when I was looking at the COG budget, I had put in a number from a previous
Okay.
year, from years back, that, there's columns like this,
But-
I misread.
Okay, and that's valid and fair, things happen. But why is it such an increase over
So we
the
didn't, if you look.
previous year's budget, but then,
We didn't have a planner for a long period of time. That's why there's a big change
Right.
there.
Yeah, but
So,
that's right.
Somebody out.
we weren't paying a salary
No.
We
now?
weren't paying.
Yeah.
we literally did not have a planner.
And the township didn't explode or die either, so, I mean, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of money.
And we are contractually obligated to that plan.
Yeah, but they're a governmental entity.
for 2021,
Yeah,
yes. If you want to make changes,
it would be for the following year.
Yes.
So I think this would be a good time for you to move forward with the things you're talking about and use, and
Yeah.
see how
Use
this
that,
goes
yes.
and make sure that
And
they
then see if you
validate
can-
that
yeah.
service.
right.
Not-
I mean, staff has really tried to squeeze blood out of this rock. I mean, $25 we're looking at
Oh,
when we've got hundreds of thousands of deficit. So I don't know how much more we're gonna be able to grab without actually hurting something else.
Yeah.
We have to hurt. We have to hurt a lot before I'll agree to raise taxes. Now, maybe other people in this room may not agree with that, but the pain has to be given here to this township government because we need to get our act together and put on our big kid clothes and say, hey, we're gonna do what needs to be done. I don't wanna go back to anybody and say, well, I raised your taxes because I couldn't come up with a good idea or I couldn't save any money. There's a lot of extra in this budget.
I wouldn't say there's a lot of extra. What I would say is, we've taken on a tremendous amount of debt with no plan to
Well,
pay it
that's,
off.
yeah.
That's the thing. I'm okay, I'm more okay if we have a designated purpose for the tax. So we did have to buy some equipment that we did not plan for how to get the money to pay for that equipment. And also the park, we put some money forth that we didn't have a plan of having that money up front. So now there's a couple big things that would go towards, more so than just, we've been fiscally irresponsible.
I'm not saying anybody's
But,
fiscally
no.
irresponsible. I know what you guys are under with Denise would have squawked up a storm had we tried to borrow $500,000 we didn't have with no plan for it.
Yeah.
And I know when you're a supervisor, because I sat in her chair, but I also know when you're a supervisor, you come into the meetings, you do the best you can do, you got a life. It isn't your full-time job.
Right.
And a lot of townships, the supervisors don't even look at anything except for the night of the meeting. You know, you guys at least looked at stuff,
Yeah.
but if people aren't feeding you the correct information, it's awful hard to make a good decision.
I'm actually just curious as to why our auditors didn't seem to pick up how we had so many financial
They should have blown the
issues.
gasket.
All,
I don't-
that's not their job is just for process.
Right.
Are you
But
following the
they should come back
process?
as an auditor and say, you've spent more money than you brought in. This is not, it should have been on their auditor's report at the end of the year.
And-
And it looked like we've done that for 3 years, and maybe it was, I don't know.
And that's that thing I showed you earlier up on the screen where I highlighted it. It's in the DCED reports that you deficit spent.
Right.
It's in there.
So,
And I'll be honest, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
and I can
And my
believe that.
understanding is you weren't provided those reports in the past. So,
Well, there was too much isolation between the management and the elected officials. Way too much isolation.
All right, let's keep
Yeah,
going.
let's
Let's
Okay.
keep going.
so continuing on, the 2,500 for supervisor expenses, I didn't change. I'll let you guys decide.
You can
Eliminate
skip
it.
it.
Wiped
You can
out.
skip all
We don't need
2,600,
that this
yeah.
year.
And your mileage, I didn't change.
Pay for my own
Skip it.
thing, so.
Okay. The CBICC, again, Bob, I took your approach and
Zero it.
reduced it to half, but I,
Let's
Let's zero
for
that.
now, let's zero it.
okay?
I'm writing things down like that we can then go back at the end and see if we wanna put it back a little bit or what, but.
My salary stayed the same. The professional development and mileage, I dropped that to 500 total.
Does that cover though the center leadership?
That's paid.
Oh, it is paid.
That's
Okay,
paid.
okay.
So that, I reduced that from 4,000 total to $500.
Okay, good.
3,500 jobs.
Yes, yes. And really, that's only gonna be one line item moving forward.
Okay.
Okay, great. The manager breakfast host thing,
Goodbye.
okay.
If you need to, I'll pay $200 for whatever you need.
And I'll pay that out of my
Yeah.
own, that's fine.
You'll buy some bagels.
So the township auditor kind of stays the same there. That's the contract extension we signed
Is
with
what
Meyer
it is.
Dusel.
Yep.
The tax forms, we talked about that. That's RBA services and, you know, if Brett doesn't win the election. Legal ads.
So this was just
So-
increased a couple thousand for
I
general
actually
business.
dropped it the whole way down to 42, so it's less than last year. So I took that 3,000 and dropped it to 1,500.
But what I want to make sure of is this realistic?
No, I mean, this
Well, I
is-
don't, well, this is the thing. I also want to be semi-realistic. If we know for sure we're going to need some of that money, then keep it in there.
So what I've done is, again, I would rather take that time and put a whole bunch of meetings together and advertise for it and we'll cancel meetings, right? But
I would be okay if we didn't adopt one single ordinance this year. We can work on them and see what happens this year. And then next year in January, we could roll through and do whatever.
Do it all.
At least it would be clean at that point.
Okay.
You know, like I said, it's just, everything is so tight this year. We gotta advertise our meetings, because that's what the law says.
Yeah.
But we don't have to adopt any regional ordinances, we don't have to adopt,
That's true.
and I know it might stink for some people, and I know there's gonna be things going on, and we as a board of supervisors have the authority to amend the numbers if we have to. But, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, we can have meetings, we can do a lot of things, but we'll just minimalize new ordinances, adoptions, whatever, until we see what's gonna happen. Suppose this country goes into a slump or a depression for the next 10 years. You know, 1929 all over again, we could have big-time problems.
I mean, we can take this zoning hearing board out. We haven't had a zoning hearing board one for a while.
I don't think anybody's gonna complain about anything, because there's no building going on, just residential stuff.
So we can reduce that. If you look at the previous years, we always have it budgeted because you don't know what to expect, but we will do our best to operate within a $4,000 legal ad. And again, this is all
I'm thinking
dependent.
more like 2,500.
Is that realistic?
That's, yeah, that's, even just from the basis of the regular meetings that we have to do, is that realistic? So Denise is saying no.
What is the minimum?
Probably the
Absolute
4,000.
minimum.
I would say,
4,000 probably.
yeah, I would say 4,000. At the bare minimum, if nothing goes wrong, you never have to advertise anything other than what you did at the beginning of the year. You're
Well, we
looking at
did
2,500
$29.96 in 2018, 22.23 in 2019. I don't know why we can't do 2,500. Make it $3,000. I don't see the need for it if we just keep it minimal. Like I say, I'd be happy to fix things and do stuff next year, but I just don't want to lock us into a bad situation.
$3,000.
And I don't like the fact that we're distressed and all that other stuff,
So we need to talk about that too, and we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Okay. So 3,000 is, we're gonna do our best to advertise everything up front and not have any mistakes or anything else happen. Treasurer bonds, kinda, yeah, you're kinda stuck there. The solicitor fees. So I've managed to get everything down to less than what was budgeted for this year.
Good.
I reduced the general business, yes, by 5,000 there. And that is, I base that off of, we're hoping to do one meeting a month. So even if he came to every meeting,
Yeah, that's helpful.
that still gets us where we need. But it's less than what we budgeted this year, and this year I was very, very, very stingy with using legal services. I don't think that's something that we should skimp on.
My personal opinion is under that 404.45 total thing, we should have that thing under $10,000. You got zoning matters down there for 16.5, I don't know what it is.
Forget all the little pieces. Really, it's just one line item, right?
Okay, well, let's just make it one line item. You know, like I said, at this point, we're trying to eke out whatever we can, so I just say axe it down to $10,000. And like I said, if we don't adopt any ordinances this year, we can be ready to go for next year. We can have our planning commission and our planner that we're gonna pay for half his salary.
But we
You know,
won't have
can
any
sit down and
legal
work out
review?
all the beautiful stuff, and then we can dump it on the attorney's lap on January 2. And say, Happy New Year, review it.
We
So,
already took it down from 40,000 to 29.
But it's just a number on a paper, I mean, you could,
But we still have to be able to account for things that we're gonna need, things that
Yeah,
come
we
up.
have to
And if
be
we don't
honest with
spend it,
ourselves.
we'll have it, and it's
Right,
not
if we
a
don't spend it,
huge.
we don't
if
spend
we
it,
don't
that's
have,
a
we
good
don't
thing.
spend it, but we also have to make our budget balance at the end. So
But
any
I
number
do-
we got there, we gotta account
But I
revenue
don't
for.
want to do it in a fake way. If
Well, I
we
don't think
know
it's
that we
fake.
need, if we
Right.
know that
We
we're
need
going to
legal
need legal fees, then let's put it down on paper.
But what are we spending our attorney for?
our attorney gets consulted for a lot of things, and I've avoided doing that this year.
Well, that's
And
good. That's
I'm
'cause you're earning your
I'm
pay.
feeling the burn of that right now.
You can really get burned for that if you make a mistake on a
Yes,
legal issue.
and we've already had 2 attorneys contact us about items that I've made decisions on without contacting the attorney.
Yeah, well,
Now,
that-
gratefully, they're minor and they can be defended very easily, and so they're not gonna be court issues, but
Attorneys,
I think it's very important we keep that number.
attorneys
safeguard
typically call
ourselves.
people and complain. I think I got about 20 phone calls in 1 year.
To
for everything from
safeguard
stormwater to
ourselves.
whatever.
I want to make sure that we have some amount there.
Even
I'm
if you
very,
win the lawsuit, you still
Okay,
have to pay an
hold on.
attorney to defend you.
one, I think going down to 10 might be handicapping us.
Okay, about
15? But, because, I mean, if you look at what we have spent year to date, it's almost 15. So, I mean, at minimum, I
Right.
want to do that.
All right, let's budget 17.5, if that makes people happy. I'd like to say, we just don't call the attorney unless we need the attorney.
I know, but
If
there's
somebody
time.
comes in here, or they send us a letter and say, we're gonna sue you for something, most of that stuff you can throw in the trash.
Well, no, it's
It's more than
typically
that.
not, it's typically not just a reaction to somebody calling. It's all of these different ordinances,
ordinances
subdivisions,
review, yeah.
different questions that come up.
It's workers'
It's
comp
consultation.
issues, it's things that are out of my control. So,
It's
Do we have a lot of
consultation.
workers' comp issues?
we have different issues that we deal with.
All right,
and we-
I'm
I mean,
seem to be
that's all-
unaware of this,
You're,
so-
you're privy to that information, I
I
think
mean, we
that,
don't wanna discuss it on TV, maybe.
Correct.
but-
I think there's some confidentiality there that we should,
So the
Well,
two,
just
so
nobody
let's-
said we have workers' comp issues, we might need the attorney there.
but
or-
that's covered in all of that fee.
Right, but I'm trying to cut the budget down to something that's manageable, so I need to
And
Like,
we-
I don't wanna do it based on, well, we got this fantasy redevelopment project that we're gonna do.
Right.
You know, I don't wanna get involved with that this year, cause we can't afford it.
So the two big things, the two biggest numbers on here is, the one is the general business, which you were anticipating or wanting to have him come to more meetings. We kind of agreed, let's skip that until you need him. So whatever that needs to drop to, that 17,820. Oh, you got it?
Yeah, I dropped
Okay.
it down
Lovely.
to 13.
So then the other big number is about the zoning matters. So what was the anticipation for that?
One of the things in our strategic plan is to start looking at those items so that we're being, again, not reactionary, but
Proactive.
proactive, and how we can look at ways to help keep.
So then we could drop that back, because if we want to say, you know what, let's hunker down this
Yeah,
next
I
year
already
and
dropped
not do
that
that.
back. I already
then
dropped
let's-
that back. That was
Yeah.
at 16.5. I dropped that to
If we have
9.9.
a matter we gotta deal with, we can bring the attorney in and deal with it. We just don't need to reinvent the zoning wheel this year. Maybe next year, maybe the year after, but definitely not this year.
And unless we have some kind of anticipation that we're going to have some issues, I would consider dropping it lower.
Well, Denise already dropped it to 9,000.
I'm
And if
looking
you
at,
look through the history here,
that's,
in 2019, we spent $9,000. 2018, we spent 5, 2017, 0, but
The thing is, in 2019, we spent a grand total of 11,728.15. And last year, we spent 13, well, that's this year, so
Yeah.
we'll scratch back here.
Yeah, how did we-
Still, maybe about
9,300 the
15
previous
grand.
year, 14,800 the previous year.
so,
I
yeah.
can imagine what 17 was, but, so I don't think if you have it at 17.5 for the whole caboodle there, that's gonna be an issue for us. And if it is, it's legal things. We can scrounge up money to cover that stuff if we have to.
So that's a big cut, but I am okay with the 17.5.
How about 20?
Yeah,
Now
I
it's
feel
haggling
like
time.
I need to err on the side of caution,
I
like
don't want
Denise
anybody to
pointed
feel
out, you
comfortable
know.
spending it just because we have it in the budget either.
No, I don't think, our group does not do that.
Guaranteed Denise does not feel comfortable spending money if she doesn't have to.
Yeah, but I don't feel comfortable having, not,
Not doing it when we should and getting.
yeah, and in getting ourselves in trouble with a legal issue that could have very well have been avoided if we just, you know, sent an email to Jeff, or Mr.
So,
Stover,
so
excuse me.
again, if we said 20, it's a lot, it's a number on a piece of paper, does not mean we need to spend it. But it's our,
All
I
right,
guess
I will
our
go with
safety
20
net.
just to lock it into something so we can see where we are when we
Okay,
get down to the
let's do
bottom.
it. Okay. And so you already reduced, I
So
think, the
we're
codification.
slow walking our zoning matters.
Yeah.
So where's codification at? As far as I'm concerned, you can put that at a 0 for this year until we see where we're at. But everybody may not feel that way.
So 20,000 for the legal fees, that has been changed. Codification, we had listed at 10,395. I dropped that to 7,195.
I would say that we just not do it unless we can get this budget done and find out we're into the good. We will survive without codification. This township has been here for 200 years, and it survived without codification. It will survive another year without codification.
We have to keep the 1195. That is our E-code maintenance.
That's fine.
We can drop
All
that
right.
to
Put-
0.
Put
for the
1,200
six.
in there if that's what we have to pay for E-codes.
Oh, it's up there already. That's the 1195.
Right.
Okay.
So we're gonna get rid
Blank
of,
it out. We'll pause on
Yeah, I'm
codification.
not totally comfortable with that.
I'm not either, but it depends if things aren't coming up. I mean, it's one of those safety things.
Yeah.
Right, but at the end of all this, we're gonna have to really, well, we'll see where we're at, but we're gonna
Yeah.
have to be, because if we come up short, then we're gonna end up borrowing money or doing further deficit spending, and and things go up, and we haven't raised taxes for 10 years. The cost of living goes up every year in those years, and we've been sucking it up.
And-
So-
I'm gonna answer that question. Everybody in this township gets a raise, just about, that has a job someplace. When they get a raise, we get a greater percentage of their earned income. okay? The real estate values never go down. The assessed values, people in this place are building new houses, people are putting additions on, or building garages. We get more money. Our roads haven't really increased in the last 10 years. I mean, since Trotter Farms was built, we don't have any new roads. So we're bringing in more money every year just by default. And that's what most municipalities don't want to admit to, is you're gonna bring in more money than you did last year. Everybody that works at the university gets X number of dollars raised typically every
And the
year.
cost of everything goes up every year too.
Well, it does, it does.
And the assessed values on existing homes isn't changing.
Well, it does change. They
Not
reassess
very
every
often.
so
Little bit.
often.
If anything, people are going and doing the tax assessment claims. So they're going and asking for their property to be reevaluated, which usually is getting lower.
You don't get very far.
I would caution what you're saying as, even though people do get raises, yes, right? And that should technically bring in more money. Keep in mind those portions that we're getting. So you might get a huge raise and we're getting $4 of that, and we haven't raised taxes in 10 years. So you're asking us to do the same services
Or more services.
at less what we're getting. Think of it like groceries, Dave. 10 years ago, I
Right.
could go and get, for $1.50, I could get a pint of tomatoes. Go and try to get that today, and it's ridiculous. You're not going to get
Well,
that.
our days with the T-bone steaks are done. We're nothing but baked beans and ramen noodles.
And I'm
until
all
we get
about
things
ramen
under
noodles
control.
and getting through this.
Let's continue. We can slash and burn.
All right.
It's not done, and let's see what it looks like.
We've got
and
a
then
ways
we
to
can go
go.
back and talk about the things that we might need to focus on. Okay.
Okay, so clerk wages and admin wages, again, that's
Yes.
the same. I
I'm all
removed
for
the,
putting into our staff because they're fantastic. So
I removed the mileage. We had a discussion, and Amy is more than happy to skip the conference. I did keep $1,000 for her educational development. She does have some certifications that we need to
Yep.
keep.
But you could take that out of 500, Denise, and that would still cover that.
Okay.
Cool, thank you.
I don't want to detract from the employee's ability to stay trained and
that's
current.
correct.
And I don't want to detract from the employee's ability to pay their bills or do things, but we just may have to do less.
Again, none of the employees are getting a raise this year.
Right.
And we've all agreed to basically cut all of the things that we can, and
Yeah.
we're doing our best.
Yep.
Office supplies, I kept at 3,000, only because we are literally using up our own supplies to get us through this year. So it's still less than what's budgeted originally. The postage, that's that, I didn't reduce that. That is, the board had made a decision during our strategic plan about increasing our mailings to help reach out to our residents. So that includes that.
How many mailings was that?
2 mailings for every parcel owner at 1,250. And that also includes our Pitney Bowes postage rental machine that we have a contract for.
Another contract.
So this was part of our, so when I was going through this as well, I was looking at our key things that we were looking at for the 5-year strategic plan. I would love to start all of these things in year 1. However, if we wanted to knock a little bit off, we could maybe drop it down, and do mailings in 2022.
Do a good one.
So if we wanted to do a little nickel and diming there, we could, where is that again?
So drop that to 625 for that piece.
Well, it looks like the lowest we've had has been
About
around
1,000. So I'd be okay with 1,000. What do you guys think? So
Talking
that
about
knocks about
postage.
$2,700 off.
Postage, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wait, so,
Postage.
I'm okay with 1,500 on that, because you don't know what you're gonna have to mail out.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta have a cushion there.
are you saying
As long as
1,500 total?
nobody's
Because
stealing
this also
stamps, I
includes
don't care.
postage for our postage machine. Like there's, so if you look
To
up in
send
our
out
formula,
bills and
it's,
things.
I just reduced that 625, that's half.
Oh, I see the formula.
So
Thank
we
you.
have actual postage we have to pay.
Oh, well, you gotta do that.
And
That's
then
fine.
the 625 is what it would be for one mailing,
Okay.
plus that 52032 is our rental on the machine. So
So
now are we,
So six.
are we
oh, okay.
cutting off this mailing to people altogether? Because we can just eliminate that, but we still have to have actual postage for the
Yes,
machine.
keep the amount for the actual postage,
Okay,
for sure.
Postage machine contract expire.
Dave, you have to have like some basics
Right,
that
you can get
need for
stamps and peel 'em off.
operations.
Yeah, but
That-
over the course of time, you get a discount on the postage. And it
Well,
saves you
if
money.
you get a discount,
And then staff also has to go to the post office and pick up the
Yeah.
stamps. So right now, we hit a
Right.
button and it's all done.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not
but
bad.
probably
It's not
everybody
bad.
goes to town once a week, so.
Oh my goodness, Dave. Okay.
So
Alright.
do you want me to reduce the overall postage?
No, keep whatever postage
Okay.
you need. We just wanted to reduce the mailings.
Okay, so
Right.
then that only reduces us down to 3.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
great. So I didn't change our fire extinguisher for general operating supplies or the water.
No, nothing with the copier or dog license here in cost.
The dog licenses stays the same. I did reduce the zoning officer
Okay.
down just 500.
Okay.
And I'm not really comfortable with that even. That's a skimping.
Right now.
We are at 406.45.
Well, it's 10,300 on mine for the
Yes.
draft pay.
She said she reduced it $500.
I reduced it.
Oh, okay, I thought you said down to 500. Well, that's not
That's
gonna work.
impossible.
No, because we still have zoning no matter what, and it needs to be enforced, so.
And remember, some of these, we're trying to, even though we know these items are gonna be up in our expenses, that idea of how we've increased our zoning permit, that includes the fact that it takes him 15 minutes to drive out, 15 minutes to, let's say, do an inspection, and 15 minutes to drive back. So at a bare minimum, we're covering just his hourly salary.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So
Computers.
this is the software stuff.
Yes, so we got updated numbers. I got some pre-approvals. This is less of a mess now. I got some pre-approvals for the grant. So all these items moving
Oh.
out in 22, 23, 24, we've got those wiped out.
Oh,
So
yay.
that's great because we're getting all of our new computers and everything updated this year. So we're gonna have to pay it out this year, but it will be reimbursed. What changes is this for the software licenses. So the county isn't able to give us any type of prepay.
Okay.
So the idea was, I thought we would be able to get, if we buy a 5-year license, it's covered. We have to prorate everything. So in that, we're not gonna get any type of reimbursement for any of our new items. But what we have now is antivirus at $200 a year. The Dropbox, when we get a professional Dropbox and not a personal Dropbox. So this allows us to set permission levels and cut people from seeing our entire Dropbox. That is now $21.60 a year. The Office 365, making sure every board member has it. The full Office license is now $23.65.44 a year.
Is that an option to not
Yeah.
pursue? Because I think,
I am okay with not having access to it. I can come in, Amy knows I can come into that office and irritate people, so. So
You don't
I
have to
don't-
just come into an
I
office
don't
to
need to
irritate
have a
people.
license on my computer.
Okay, because the idea, I thought we had agreed that we would change this because we had talked about the boards getting stuff from call committees that they would need to be,
Yeah, but I did ask, I said, did you talk, how does State College do it? Because, do other groups have this? Because they've been sending pretty much everything out in PDF.
PDF.
And if I ask for it in PDF, they've been sending it.
and I had to say, but the township doesn't have to pay for it. I have my own license.
Yeah, I was about
So
to drop that
township doesn't
myself.
need to pay for a
I'm
license.
Well,
okay
you
if
need to
other
have-
members wanna have a license.
Yeah.
I personally, I'm gonna be here for the next 5.25 years. I don't need it. I will,
we have to give you a license at a bare minimum for your email address.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Okay, so
I
I
don't
can
need
see
an
if we
email
can
address either.
possibly drop that back.
no, I don't.
Let me check with Planet Technologies, but I'm gonna leave that budgeted where it's at because it's not gonna be that big of a change.
And is that's the total? That's not per person? Or
That's-
is that per
That's the
person?
total for all the supervisors
And
and
staff.
staff to
Okay,
have their
okay.
office licenses. Okay, so then, that's also the Foxit PDF, that's the generic
Oh, yeah, that's
version
what
of
you guys
Adobe
had.
that we've
Beautiful.
looked at.
Beautiful.
That's also,
IT.
yep, so
Time.
IT hours, that 14 hours per month, I'm hoping goes away. but I'd rather have that ability because you don't know what's gonna break or what's not.
Yep.
We've been controlling those costs by making sure any request for IT comes through me first, and then I divvy it out to State College Borough.
Okay.
The Office 365 backup for now is only staff, so that backs
That's
up
fine.
our yearly, okay? And
That's
then there, and I haven't talked to you about this, I just found this today. The QuickBooks offers a service that you can have a daily backup for $9.95, so for $120 a year. It ensures, because right now, QuickBooks is only on Brett's computer.
Yeah, let's get that back up, please.
And I don't want to have
No.
to ever have that have a problem.
No.
So
Okay.
that is all the fees for just licensing as it stands now.
Okay.
I can look at reducing the 5 board members to the just email again, but it's not going to change much, but I'll get a new change.
Blown deal. I got no problem with
Yeah.
that. It's just for those of us that are not gonna
If we
deal
don't
with
need
it,
it.
why pay for something we're not
No,
gonna
I
use?
agree. If you guys don't, it's fine. We can, and that is an annual license, so that's
Right.
something that we can
We
look
can add
at.
on next year.
If- each year rolling.
You know, we got good money flow and everything's fine, then maybe I do, but in the interest of saving money, you know, I'm willing to forego it.
Okay.
It's probably more important to these three than it is to Chuck and I. Well, you're IT people.
We,
I think Patty's the only one now saying she needs it, because like you said,
I don't need
I
it.
have my own account, and, you know, I can,
Yeah, it's just if you wanna use the laptop, but that particular laptop, but I
Yeah.
can pull stuff up on my other computer if
Yeah,
I need
exactly.
to. So,
Okay,
we can
so,
try it.
The whole board going back to.
I'm willing to try it.
Okay,
just
without-
email.
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, I'm fine. I was fine.
Now,
with
if it's
it in
only
the first place.
$3, then
Yeah.
might as well do it.
Right, exactly.
I don't know how much of a difference it's not gonna be huge, but let's leave that where it is and then I'll make that change with the borough.
Take a breath. I know that we're stressing you out, Denise.
Yeah, you think about it, because 365, what is it, $7.95 a month?
I don't let her.
Yeah, and
Don't
it's
worry
been,
about
you know, $5 a month per user. You might save, you know, $1,000.
Okay,
Okay.
take a breath.
Let me grab a drink.
Yeah, I told her we're stressing her out a little bit. It's okay. We're playing.
Yeah,
we're
we-
doing our forecasting. We're doing some scenario planning.
I'm just gonna say next year, I'm putting in so many paddings. Okay.
Yes.
All right, engineering. So this is the same rate. The reason is the increase is, like I said, I want to start bringing the engineer in when we do any type of reviews. And even when we've been looking at zoning and sourdough, when, for example, when we did the riparian buffer ordinance, there are flow rate calculations in there that
Who knows?
I'm not an engineer. I mean, if you want to send me to school, I'll happily go. But those are those kind of things that we need to start consulting the engineer on, and it's good to have that piece in there.
So you cut it to 4,500.
Year-to-date, you used 6,000.
6,000.
That's this year, but in previous years,
And
we
that's
were
not
way
even,
down.
remember, that's only till the end of the third quarter. That doesn't
Yeah.
include any of the fourth quarter engineering phase.
Yep. But we don't have much going on, and if we don't make him go out and dig a bunch of holes and do a bunch of testing for us,
So we're already over budget for this year?
For engineering?
Yes, we're already over budget for this year.
Oh,
So,
we are 5,500.
so what do we have him do this year?
Road projects.
Right, but
review
we're not doing a
plans.
bunch of that stuff next year, because we don't have any money to do those things next year, so.
Also, some of those in-house projects that you've asked us to look at, I've asked the engineer to give us estimates and
Right,
go
but
out
I
and
haven't asked
check out
him
the
to do anything
projects.
for next year yet, so.
So I
5,000.
guess what we're saying is if we are reducing the amount of activity that we have next year, we could reduce that number.
Engineering costs. And I like Don, I think he's a fantastic
Mm-hmm.
engineer. I mean, I've been working with him since way back, and he's great to work with. But, like again, I said, before we raise taxes on somebody, I wanna null this thing down to the bare minimum, and then build back up, if we can do that.
Again, I'd caution you, if you
I
look
don't
at your
wanna be
previous
penalized
years,
and
you've been
not
over
fully.
budget almost every single year.
That's called being cheap at the wrong time, but I don't think we're gonna be cheap at the wrong time, because we're not gonna do any projects next year to spend money on, so. If we get 4,500, okay, $5,500, let's.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Sold.
why don't we just say 5,500 and keep our fingers crossed that
Sold.
we don't have a lot going on.
You okay with that, Patty?
I was
Chuck?
gonna say 6, but I can live with.
I was gonna say 6, maybe 2, but 50, same as this year?
Yeah.
Again, nothing's written in stone yet.
Okay. So telephone, I changed this, it's probably better to just look up here. I'm gonna pull up, so telephone and public utilities, this really needs some cleaning as far as the line items. So
I'm not worried about that.
what I did is this static IP and this internet. This is how much it will cost for telephone and internet with the new, it will be a 3-year deal with Comcast. And then it takes that out of these public utility costs. So this is just like electric and water, actual utilities versus telephone and internet.
So we're
So-
gonna do $7,000 to Comcast on a 3-year deal for the next 3 years, $7,000, it's $21,000 of taxpayers' money.
So I would tell you to look at the telephone cost that you've budgeted along with this public utility cost and make that one item. So really, it's still lower.
Well, the reason why I'm looking at an individual line item is because I think it's probably too much money for telephones. That's a lot of money for telephones.
We also lost in the negotiation for the Comcast franchise agreement, we lost free internet to a building. They know, it wasn't negotiated and
that's
All right,
Comcast
so let's
doesn't
cut it to
offer
the
it.
shop.
What's what?
Let's cut the internet to the shop.
We cannot do that, Dave,
Why
and
not?
They
operate
have to do
effectively.
business. That's a cost of doing business. You have to be able to connect and work from where you are.
That means they won't even get emails.
Yeah.
It
That's
is
how you
easy.
communicate with
their
them.
They can come over
workspace.
here. They can
Then
come to
why
your
you haven't-
office. I was thinking about maybe we just move everybody out to the garage anyway, and just remodel out there.
So again, let's slash and burn, but in a realistic way, and it is a 1-year,
Well-
like, we're looking at buckling down for a
Right.
year.
And this
not
saves
permanent.
500 and gives us more services and new telephones and new abilities to do.
Welcome to
For-
the
All right.
21st century.
Leave it be, and we'll see where we end up.
Okay,
Denise, hold on just a second though. You said that, so the total on that, because it should be crimped into one line item, it would be 17,000,
7.
okay. Which is, you said it was $500 less than the previous year?
yeah, it's about 18, it was
wow.
18,002.
Yeah, so
Oh,
So she
okay,
saved
I gotcha.
about $700 with the Comcast
Okay,
combination.
Have better service.
Yeah.
right, so that includes an additional building cost now because
Yeah.
that one expired. So we're getting an additional building. We're getting new phones. We're getting VoIP phones. Really, we're getting the ability to have individual voicemail boxes.
Lovely.
All of this. So we're increasing our services
and it's
Less
and
cost.
decreasing the
Yeah.
cost.
Yes. Okay,
worth it.
I don't think there's anything really in building that we can,
Yeah,
You can sell
the
it.
cleaning is what it is. That okay, so
we can throw a
409.
tent, how about this, Dave? We'll sell the building, we can throw a tent out in the parking lot. I'm just
I'd say we have a bake sale.
just kidding.
So for 409,
Cleaning services, got
that actually dropped $500.
Oh, lovely.
Cleaning services, municipal building, you're talking about this building here. $3,100 to clean this building.
Yeah, I had questioned that myself. That's awful steep.
So the contract we have is 30, so the cleaning at 1948 is 30 a cleaning for 52 weeks and 1 cleaning a week. The cleaning for here is 80 cleaning for 52 weeks. So she does a special, apparently this floor has a special, there's a special cleaning process with this floor. So I don't know if the board was aware of it when they installed it.
Isn't it just laminate floor?
No, it's luxury vinyl tile.
Oh, luxury, yeah, luxury vinyl tiles.
And she's doing the windows and everything else.
No, that's just, it's an industry term. That's what they refer to just vinyl
Anyway,
tile
it's the
as,
name
but
of
yeah.
it, so.
I questioned that too when we first time they said luxury. I was like,
Let's
wait, what?
regroup, let's regroup. Go
But
ahead,
if you
Denise.
look, it's still a reduction from 2020's budgeted items. This is,
Just leave it be, we'll see where we end up.
Yeah.
We gotta cut
And
someplace,
actually-
folks.
Could we clean it every other week?
We've been kind of pulling back from that, but the problem is with meetings and COVID, I don't
You
want to
have
cut
to-
back on our
Yeah, you
cleaning.
can't cut
Think
it.
of that.
You can't cut it. Yeah,
That might change, and actually, I was gonna budget for 2 cleanings because of meetings
Yeah.
and events with the community center.
and again, don't forget, if we don't need it, then, you know, we could reduce it during the year, but it's there for the purpose of using it.
Right, and it's still at 16,570, that line item is still less than the budgeted amount from the previous year.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so fire, we removed all of the items into the fire tax fund except for the foreign fire relief, which is that in and out. That can't go through.
With your fire tax idea.
That's right, otherwise
So-
all that goes back into the budget and now
Right,
you're
but we have to pay it no matter
97,000.
what, so.
Right.
Well, those few items are the ones that we said, tell us what you need, and we'll see if we
Right.
can budget it. So those, it's about close to 30, 20-some thousand?
So up
Yeah.
here, it's up here.
Oh, there it is, thank you.
So that is without any request from Warriors
Requests.
Mark. And that is 34% of the request from Port Matilda. And that 34% is because in the workers' comp spread that we've agreed to, our township pays 34% of that workers' comp. So when the request came in for way, way high numbers, I asked Robert, the fire chief, if it would be okay to budget for 34% of those costs so that the other municipalities budget for their percentage of those costs. And that is, I mean, the ask was for an additional, the whole 100%.
Right.
Might as well ask for 110%. If you get 80%, you should be happy, so.
And again, Warriors Mark did not submit a request
Right,
in time for the budget. So that's with nothing going to Warriors Mark.
right.
Except for what we typically pay.
Except for
them.
we've contractually been obligated to with the fire protection services agreement that we've signed.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
You all right? Another breath.
Okay, the workers' comp pieces to that fire, that stays in the general fund. That's just, it is what it is. That's that 34%.
You know,
that
Port
we pay.
Matilda Borough used to shoulder 100% of that workman's comp.
Fantastic. Do they want to do it again this next year?
No, they don't,
Okay.
All right.
but it wasn't fair to them
Port
either.
Matilda EMS.
Yep, so the EMS service is a donation. There's no
Right.
formula and there's no agreement.
I'm not gonna touch that.
Correct.
No, we need
We're
to
good
leave
with that.
be. I mean, I was open to possible discussion of dropping it back down to 2019 levels, but if you're all okay with keeping it where it is, I'm totally.
Well, we
on
know
board
that they
with
were having a difficult
Yes,
time
they
this
are.
year.
Yep.
I don't wanna do anything to
Nope.
harm their service.
No, we need them.
The recording secretary stays at 600, which is the one possible meeting a month. So that's dropping it back from what it would be. And then hopefully we can cancel some of those meetings, but I don't want to not budget for,
Okay.
okay. Public works salary stays the same.
Yep. And you got rid
Removed
of-
the part-time dude
Yep.
or dudette. All right, let me catch up here.
I was also curious, I was just curious about the seasonal wage as well, because we've budgeted like 20,000 each year, but have only spent like 11 to 16,000.
Snow.
Ah, it's
So that
dependent
will
on
go
snow.
up.
Let's keep Let's keep that where it is.
As soon
Okay.
as you take that out, you get
Yep.
a whole bunch of snow.
Okay, thank you for reminding me.
Yep. Haven't changed anything in the rest of the 430s for public
That's fine.
roads. Did change this somewhere in here. What is this one? It went from 800 to 700, not much. Oh, I changed
Travel
CDL testing down to 250 because it looks like that's decent.
Seems like that, part-time and seasonal wage for the snow, if you look at what we actually spent over the last,
What that is, Patty, is you have what they call permanent part-time individual who's budgeted for 28 hours a week for an entire year. And then you have one seasonal that's budgeted 100 hours. And they use him wherever they need fit, whether it be,
And
spend
And
it
this
based on
year-
what the snow.
right,
what
and
the
this year
snow-
we're holding on to that for snow.
Okay, Because last year
Yeah,
we didn't
that's
get much, so, but yeah.
Yeah, but sooner or later, it's gonna have one of those winters where it just doesn't stop
Mike told me
snowing.
one time, he goes, I didn't put it there and I ain't shoveling it either, it'll melt.
I'll tell you what, with this
Go ahead.
first year here as a manager, it's gonna be the worst snow season ever.
Probably. I like that strategy, Chuck. Maybe we should do that strategy. To save money in the budget, just let the snow melt.
Yep.
It'll melt.
And we will give everyone
It's
your
true.
phone number to call.
If I make a lot of money, I'll come pop.
That's true, that's true. Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
Okay.
So the piece you're gonna notice is in moving forward in the capital, oh gosh, where am I? Capital
Purchase.
machines, yep, so I
And we
kept
said
that,
buy those tires.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I,
that
I,
Normally, I would gripe about the uniform allowance, but because nobody's getting a raise this year, I will not gripe about the uniform
Very
allowance.
I dropped the uniform allowance to set it on there.
Well,
She said,
I'm
"I think
just
Dave's gonna grab
trying-
that, so I'm gonna drop it."
trying to treat people right.
So it still accounts for, remember, we had a part-time person in there?
Yeah.
So it's, or we had a half year with somebody, so now what it is 300 per person times 2.5 people.
Okay.
Okay, so the tires, I looked at this year, what we used in 430, and, I'm looking to purchase that. We just got a quote in, I said, you got $1,100 to buy the tires, so that just came in today,
And?
and
It
that's
ain't
gonna be.
making it, is it?
Oh, those, that would never make it a whole nother year.
No,
So-
I mean, the $1,100 will
I'm
not
not
pay
gonna-
for the tires,
Yes, it will.
Oh, it will?
Yes, it will.
Yay. Surprising.
By $5, under $5,
Fine.
Excellent.
but it happened.
Okay.
So we can reduce this, for the 1,300.
New tires.
Yep, so we can reduce that
Okay.
and leave it for 1,500 for, 4 new tires for the Ford 550.
Okay.
So maybe can we make that actually 1,800?
Do you, listen, whatever the tires are, yeah, be
Okay.
safe there. Again, that to me is a safety issue
That's
as
a
well,
major,
so.
major issue in my book.
Whatever
Not even
that-
just the safety of the driver, just, that's
Well,
a big
yeah.
machine.
Well, when it
Gotta
snows
look
and the
over.
truck won't push any snow because it has no tread.
Yeah,
Or
that's
the
no
truck
good.
can't stop because it has no
Yeah.
tread and it slams into somebody.
Yeah,
so-
we're not gonna tolerate
No.
that.
No.
So we'll just get rid of this new tire.
And tell Scott I will
finder.
personally skin him alive if I go over there and see any trucks that have ball tires on them that they
Did
plan
I
on
show
using.
you guys the picture of that tire? I have it on my
Yeah,
phone.
I
It's
think you
crap.
did. You showed it to me anyway.
I believe you.
It's pretty rough. So, yeah,
Okay.
that's cool. Well, at least we were able to reduce that a little bit. Where did that go? All right. So
Okay.
now that's just for the tires for next year.
Lovely.
Because we're putting this year,
Okay.
okay. Because as a general line item, that will balance out. So that brings us to 3,900 for that.
And you moved the crack ceiling.
Yes, so the next one, the crack ceiling was moved to liquid fuels. The dead tree removal is 3,500, which is less than this year, because I asked us to go out and get quotes and bids, and surprisingly, that's still,
Yeah.
better hope we don't have any other trees.
And so is
Yeah,
this
I was
something
even
that, is this something we really haven't, I'm looking at the cost each year, is this something we really haven't done in the past couple
How
of years?
big of trees are we removing?
It
Yeah, I-
depends.
yeah, I
So
was
there
gonna
are, this year, there are six trees that we need to remove that are dead trees overhanging our roads that if we don't do before the snow,
But they weren't down.
no,
Dead,
but they're gonna
yeah.
be. And so, also, we've had a couple of trees fall, back here, who's the owners back here? We own some property back here, this way. And, some trees fell on their fence from
Oh.
our property, so we had to
Yeah.
pay to have those
Yeah.
trees removed from their fence and fix their fence.
All right.
That's just a general dead
Skin it
tree.
as thin as you can.
Yeah.
I've already reduced it from 5,000 for 3,500.
Okay.
So,
And what's in the general maintenance again? Oh, you already reduced that one?
yeah, so that was at 1,500, that's just general maintenance, and then 1,500 was for that 2 RC stone for Davison. But I moved that 1,500 into liquid fuels,
Okay.
so that's been reduced. Okay. So everything out of 438 that could go to liquid fuels did.
Okay.
And we took out the 18,000 that we were gonna pay for road projects from the general fund, so that's wiped out. And that brings that line item from 36,200 down to 1040.
That's awesome.
Cool. Parks and maintenance repairs. I dropped that 1,000.
Okay.
Now,
Cut it down another 1,000.
the problem is you've got 2 parks to maintain. You have a new park and a maintenance, and there is manufactured, what is it, wood?
Right, well, the park's the reason why we're all sitting here being miserable right now, so,
So we can either not maintain it and continue to pay for it.
oh, you'll maintain
And
it anyways, it's just what you spend money on. I mean, if the swing set goes and we gotta take one out, then we take one out till we can fix it.
This is bare minimum for ADA compliance. This is bare minimum.
Well, we don't know what maintenance we're gonna have to have yet.
This is just wood fiber.
You're kidding.
No. That's why I say, we've really cut this down. This is for 2
Wood
parks.
fiber.
This is for
Really?
2. Yes, it
For
is
2 parks.
incredible.
around the play areas?
Yes.
Yep.
There is a special,
And who recommended that? That's a rhetorical question.
I gathered, which is why I didn't answer.
You weren't here, so I can't say nothing.
This is bare minimum, just keeping us ADA compliant so that
So
children
if we
aren't
gotta
getting
spend
hurt.
another 10 grand a year just to keep the park running for people to jump off the monkey bars or whatever it is we got.
Well, it is a service
build
that,
community.
it is a service that is highly utilized, or
Yeah,
highly
well,
utilized.
We'll see how they feel if they have to pay a tax on that.
I'm sure that they will,
Raise, you say, well, let's bring the
Park tax.
So it's ADA.
and again, when I looked at the budgeting, if you recall, parks and community was 10% of our overall budget.
We can join the
Right.
COG park
But
and
if the
rec.
road doesn't get plowed, there'll be 100% of the population in here being mad about it.
Of course. And if
Everybody
we-
doesn't
And
use
if
the
we
park.
need to, we can shift at that point of where we spend
We're gonna
money.
hear about it also.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. We can't let them come unsafe, but we don't need to spend more than we need to spend, especially in this year. We gotta keep the budget under control.
So the next line item is just $1,500 for equipment. So that would include like chains for swings or, when we put up the flagpole, that would be the flagpole and the concrete cost. And that's just, I would say, small items to help keep the park going.
Right.
Why do we need a flagpole?
Well, that's
No,
done.
that's an example.
done. But
That's an
like those are
example.
examples of those things that if one of the umbrellas gets ripped and we need to put a patch on it, because I know we're not going to replace it right now, but we need to put a patch on it, or
Scott's good at selling.
I'll get out my sewing machine.
So again, that's a placeholder. We don't have anything particular in mind, but that's in case we need to get something small for the park.
Remember, the 6,500 is just wood fiber, so this is
Right, this is
both
the
parks.
1,500,
Right,
yes,
both
yes.
parks, general, just
Yes.
I recommend we try to find a substitute for the wood fiber that's not so expensive to maintain or keep up every year. That's just,
we've tried.
well, try again.
What makes it so special? It's a wood fiber.
It's a special manufactured ADA compliant wood fiber.
That's it right there. It says ADA compliant. It's probably just regular wood chips, but
They got a seal
No,
on
it's
them.
more than, I think it's more than that. But anyway, we can research the materials
All right,
next year.
move on.
Okay,
And that's this year's cost.
yes.
Okay, then the supplies for Park and Rec. So the Easter party we've dropped to 200. The movie night we dropped to 850, and we did a cost of what it was this year, which was like 677.90.
How many people did we have out for movie night?
Not very many.
Then I say we scratch movie night next year because money's tight, and if we're not gonna give up on our wood fiber, then we need to cut back.
So one of the items was to increase our community development, and I don't know if that's an item you'd like to slash based off of your strategic plan.
do it the next.
I love the strategic plan. It's a great goal. But if we don't pay our bills, we're in deep doo-doo. So the bills come first, the strategic plan number 2.
For the $2,000 we have allocated for the 2 community events that we try and have every year, I'm okay keeping $1,700 or $1,500 for those 2 events.
So am I.
We don't offer a lot to our
I-
community at all. So,
We're affordable out here. We are where all the police officers move to because the rest of the center region's expensive. I mean, this is the place where people come to because they don't want a lot of regulations, they don't want a lot of
Correct.
aggravation, they don't want the government riding around with a measuring stick, measuring their grass in their front yard.
right?
And it's cheap to, well, it used to be cheap to live out here. I'd like to say keep it being cheap to live out here, if possible.
But I also want to make sure that just cheap is not the only selling point.
Yeah.
If it's cheap and crappy to live here, then that's
It's not crappy to live here.
I
You
know
can get
it's
in a car
not.
and go to state college and hang out and
The key
get
statement
your
is
COVID-19 and do all
impossible.
that kind of stuff.
And it's no longer possible to keep the taxes where they're at. It's not possible.
Well, we'll see.
So anyway, I am not in favor of getting rid of those. Like I said,
Nor am
we
I.
only do 2 events a year, and we only did 1 this year because we wanted to try and do something to keep the community connected. It's,
it's too late in the year for movie night, but that's just my opinion.
So
it
that was
was.
COVID related
It was.
and, yeah, I
We
mean, we can
normally
move
have it
that.
in August, so next year we'll be back in August, hopefully.
Okay.
Okay, the ball field lights, it stayed an average of 20 a month. This month it was $60, but averages over that. We talked about the toilets.
Do
and
we
the-
burn those ball field lights year round or just during ball games?
During
Ball
ball games,
games.
they don't turn.
Yeah,
they-
they're not
They
on.
turn them on manually,
Yep.
when they need them and then turn them off. Before the people are even gone, they get them off so fast. Poor folks walking
Toilets.
in the
We
dark.
talked about the consequences if you remove a toilet, and I can't ask our guys to perform hazmat cleanup. So that's a bare minimum there.
Do our field rentals pretty much cover those 2 expenses?
I'm looking into that. The field rentals are
Minimal.
odd, how that
Is that
was.
something that we can look at increasing to balance out these expenses?
That's one of the things we're looking at
Well,
when
and
we
then
look
they
for.
shouldn't maybe carry them totally, because they're there for our park users too.
Right, right.
Well, but half the people that use the portable toilets are Little League related, so.
And that's a weekly pump rate, right? I'm sorry, a monthly,
Monthly.
but he comes out weekly?
He actually charges, by the porta potty for a month. Cause we have to have the handicapped ADA accessible, and it's 100, a flat fee. If he has to come out and take care of an emergency, even if he doesn't, it's 100.
Just playing devil's advocate. I do know that, Center Region Park and Rec, all of their parks, they lock the bathrooms after, I guess, what is it, Labor Day? And then they are inaccessible until the following, Memorial Day.
Oh, that's a good idea. I don't know what we,
So,
We'd like-
I,
You don't want the
idea-
porta,
no, but what I'm saying is if we were to remove the porta potties for 8 months, 12 months, whatever it is out of the year, I mean, is it really that, do we really worry that much that somebody's gonna do something?
so I would, it's not only that, but I also, I mean, you're saving,
That's true, it's only like $1,200, less than that,
right.
for more of a hassle than
All
it's
right,
worth.
that's fair.
And to have him come pick it up might actually be an additional
Cause
cost.
keep
Yeah,
in mind,
that's
football's still going right now in October, so.
That's a good point as well.
And we have the skating rink out here in the winter,
Yeah, that never freezes anymore. So it's called a swimming
that's
pool.
what I hear.
Okay.
So I would caution you in reducing toilets.
All right,
Um,
you convinced me.
good. Now you'll appreciate it when you go. Riff Raff collection is the same. That's just because that's a pretty consistent cost.
So I was debating if we would want to skip a year.
That's what I'm thinking. Or, my idea, and on my note here, is we charge $5 a car and $15 a pickup truck load.
I wonder what that would get us. I'm just curious.
Well,
We don't do any.
if I go to the Center County trash recycling thing out there on Reach Road or whatever
Yeah.
it is, it costs $15 to take your car through there and go throw some junk over the concrete wall.
It's $20 now. I'm there
Okay,
often.
well, it might be this year. I
I'm
don't
there
know.
every
I
couple
haven't
of
been
months.
there for a while. So, it's $20. So even if we charged $5, $10, anything, I mean, what do you get? A couple hundred people coming through there, at least?
It won't reduce your expense. It might increase some of your
Well, I'm not
income, but
expecting it's gonna reduce the expense, but it might help reduce some of the,
A little opposite.
yeah. I mean, I like keeping the township clean, believe me. Because
So-
we used to get people throw junk out up there
What-
on Orchard Road
You
all the
have an
time.
option here.
But they're not the same people. The people that want to keep their house clean are coming out there getting rid of the riffraff.
There's always the option to go to a single trash hauler and have a weekly
No.
bulk pickup.
Nope.
No, absolutely not. I don't have a problem having the riffraff, but I still think it'd be fair to collect $10. And they can call it a donation or whatever to help keep Half Moon Township clean. It's still cheaper than getting in your car and driving all the way over there to the Center County thing. And, you know, it's half that cost, and you don't have to drive over there and burn up, you know, $6 worth of gas.
So this is one of these items that I would like,
Other townships can use it too.
this
I've
is
been
one
out
of
there
these
and seen
items that I would love to put in front of our actual residents to say, hey, we're thinking about skipping riffraff this year. Would you rather skip riffraff or pay $10 a car? Why should I make the decision?
Yeah.
Let the people who actually utilize the service make the decision.
I have never, well, that's not true. I've taken stuff over to riffraff one time.
I take it every
Usually,
year.
I load the truck when I'm in the mood, and I take it over to the Center County
Good for
thing, and I
you.
get rid of it.
Yeah, that's what I do as well.
So
And-
that's what I would rather do. I like the idea of charging, but it's also kind of a pain in the butt to do that. But I'd rather leave it up to people.
I guess we're still getting a high volume. I know the first year or two we did this, we had a really high volume. I don't know if it's something we could go to every other year and then still have Goodwill and Habitat come.
So we reduced, we stalled it because of COVID and not
Right,
quite
right.
sure. And the amount of questions I fielded alone was ridiculous about when were we having it?
Oh,
when was
yeah,
this
really?
going? And I worked Saturday with the staff out there, and there was never more than a 30-second break
Yeah.
from
I
8
know
in the
it's
morning
popular.
until.
Well, I know we had it on
3
But
our
if we were giving
calendar
away
and-
$20 bills, there'd be a long line going down the street too, which is essentially what we're doing.
It was a heck of an event.
So
It's just a nice service
let's
that
put
people
a question
appreciate.
there.
Because the other townships have bulk pickup twice a
twice a
year,
year.
so,
Yeah,
and
we
that's,
do it
but that's because they have the one hauler,
Let's put a
Right, they
question.
have a single hauler.
yeah.
Let's put a question there, because that falls into the parks and community kind of thing, or 10%. So this is where, once we go back up the list here and see where do we want to potentially put our money, that might be one of those things. We figure something out. Okay, so that's a question.
So are we asking the public if they want to pay $10 or have their tax?
them, they're gonna say
No, right.
No, I said this, either or. Skip riffraff for a year, or we have it, but you pay $10.
$10 fee to
Right, one or the other.
Which I think is a bargain at $10.
Oh, it's a total bargain.
And I don't mind having the township help cover some of those expenses for people. Like I said, it's half the price of what it costs, and it's close.
I got a question though, collecting money that way, we're a municipality, is it legal?
Sure.
I don't know. I have
Can
to
we
go to
put
our
that into
lawyer.
So, and
general-
use the lawyer fees to.
But
Yeah.
Well, I
these
can
are
tell you,
the-
we can take checks and we can take cash. So,
Well, you collect taxes every
But
year.
what are you allowed to do with money raised that way too? I mean, I know
use it
there's,
to pay, because it would be
funny-
dedicated raising to pay for rubbish disposal. I mean, you can't take it and use it in the general fund, and we
Yeah,
can't
that's
make
what I
money
was
off
saying,
it.
we can't, but I guess if we could apply it to what we're actually
I-
doing that day.
I think it would make
We're not
sense.
gonna figure that out right now, let's let
Yep.
Denise put that
Yeah.
on her list. Okay, we can speculate all we want, we're not
That's why
gonna
we
get
pay her
anywhere.
the big bucks.
Okay, so trash collection, for trash, we anticipate there's gonna be a small increase in that.
And that's just a regular trash.
That's
collection,
just
right?
for our regular
Okay.
trash. The library,
Center County,
Center County, I didn't reduce that. That
Well,
is,
we can't, that's cog negotiated.
no,
no, not Center
No.
County.
Oh,
you
that one.
have
Yeah, right, I'm
$55,000 going to one library and $3,500 going
Going to the
to
bookmobile.
all of the rest of the county libraries.
There's more than the bookmobile, it's the one in Center Hall, the one in Bellefonte.
And they take care of the historical museum.
Hillsborough.
across the
Historical,
street.
yeah.
Now, that 55 is part of your agreement to be in the library program with the COG. That 35 is a general donation.
We've just knocked $30,000 out of the road budget. And I'm not saying we kill the library either, but I am all in favor of a user's fee or a library tax.
You can do a
But
library.
my problem with the library tax is that the people that don't use the library are paying the tax.
It's like
Well, that's
anything
how
else.
any
It's like
tax.
Well-
education, right? I don't have kids, but I still have to pay school taxes.
It's like any tax.
Well-
so that,
I live on a state road, I don't have to drive on any township roads. But I still think that's a lot of money to go in and rent books, and they got great services in there and all that wonderful stuff, but that's a lot of money to that particular thing,
So this
in my
is-
opinion.
This is another one of those ones where,
We are not-
why do we make the decision? I would love to get engagement from the community to find out, and we
But I don't
have,
want it on the internet, I want a response by mail.
well, then we
Yeah,
gotta
if
put
we
$2,000
do-
back
Then we have to
in
mail
our-
out.
Well, we can put it in our thing, how do you feel about paying an extra $100 for the library?
So one of the other things that we can do, and I can't remember when Kathy came and provided the information, because we have a lot of usage from residents from Halfmoon Township.
That's
A
what they say.
lot of usage.
Yep.
So, we can confirm that, but I don't think there's anything that we can do with that because we are
Not this year.
contracted this
Right.
coming year.
But we can put a library tax on this year and see how people feel about
We
it.
sure could. Yeah.
If I'm gonna raise taxes, people are gonna know where the money goes, as far
So-
as I'm concerned.
That, I agree with
That
that.
would probably be just a real small millage to cover that.
Super small.
in or, so at the discounted rate, so if we implement a 1 mil, the discount gets us about 75 to 77,000.
So it's more than what we need.
You got a calculator handy over there?
Always,
We can't
right
do it.
there.
Take, $58,000 and divide it by 800 residents.
68 bucks.
All right, I think my dad pays like
72.
$36 in Patton Township for a library tax,
Hmm.
for something that they don't use. But,
Where I came from, there was a library tax, and that went towards the
I know
entire
libraries
county
all
library.
started out, they're all supposed to be free, but then somehow municipalities ended up being forced to pay for them.
Somebody's got to.
And
Somebody's gotta
nobody,
pay for them.
nobody pays squat to the county, which is my big gripe about
That
this
is
thing.
interesting.
That's-
That's just,
I
it-
think it's a very disproportionate as well.
I
The
think it
fact
just
that-
stinks. I think the county works very hard to have a good library system, and they get like zero support out there in the world. And it's like, we have to have Schlo because State College is special. And I just don't see it. It's not any more special than anything else. They got a wonderful new building that they built right downtown where all the college students are, but the people don't live there. I mean, that's water under the bridge, I guess. But
If we did the library tax and we could, if we had it coming in a little more than what we need for SCLO, we could put that towards the center county.
I would be okay with that,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
if we end up doing it.
Can we do less than a mil?
yes. We
Okay.
have some
Yeah, you
charts
can
that
do
we can run.
.0613927 if you want.
you
Yep.
to make it work.
If it came out to like 65,000, then we would have enough for SCLO, and then we could up what we have to center
We
county.
have to find out if we can do that sometime.
Because you
Oh,
said
that's
one
not
was
legal
like
because we don't
70
have
something,
contract.
No.
1 mil.
It may
1 mil
be-
dis-
Couple
Discounted.
conversations
Yeah.
going on. Let's hold off
Tax.
here.
Okay, so we could play with that.
I hear what you're saying over there. Do you want to state that? I mean,
Tell
again,
me.
there's nothing we can do
He
this coming
tells,
year.
he tells me it doesn't work. If you want to use the library, you go purchase a library card. So those who use the library pay for the library. Guys that me don't use the library, I don't have to buy a card. Does that make sense?
But that's not how the library system works.
I
It
get
can
that.
work any way we want it
And
to
I
work.
don't understand most
We
of the
can't
world,
ask
but
them
if you
to
want to
implement
drive down the road, you have to buy a license for your car so you can drive on the road.
But we're not changing their policy.
I get that. I'm just.
We're trying to
it's a
figure out how we're
suggestion.
gonna charge for their service.
You know, we're gonna sit here and try to not raise taxes and probably raise taxes and explain to the people that don't use things and going, well, it's too bad, you have to pay for that.
So you have the option, Ferguson, I believe, did this, where they withdrew from the COG library system, but then still provided the donation. So it was, at least they did this for 1 year, so it was more of a statement. So
But I think they're back in.
they're back in, yeah, but like I said, I think it was for a year. It was more of a statement about the COG and the formula and the library. You can always, not this year, but you can withdraw from that and then still provide a donation.
I don't have a problem with supporting the library, I just have this problem with the amount of money that we have to send in for the support. I mean, like I said earlier, I see a lot of money going into the center region that doesn't do a thing for our citizens. Maybe not directly
it's all indirect though, and it's a choice. I mean, if I don't subdivide, I don't need a planner. If I don't go to the library, I don't need a library. And I have a tremendous library at my house. You know, it's private, it's mine, but I'm not gonna go in the Schlow library, because I guarantee you, most of the things that I wanna research are not in there. I was in there when I was a kid, and they didn't have much anyways, but,
They have a ton in there.
Yeah, and plus that gives access to Penn State and also Center County. They're all kind of
Right,
interlinked
but-
now too, so you can go.
but you can go up to Petit and you can go to
And
Center
it's not
County.
just books, you have to keep that in
It's all,
mind.
there's a lot of digital
There's
now.
meeting rooms, there's.
I don't wanna
different-
supply meeting rooms for everybody to go have meetings.
There's
you know, if we're gonna have a
services
library,
for
let's have
single
a library.
moms, there's reading clubs, it's more than just the
Checking out a
stacks.
book.
Not
Yeah.
to mention, as stated, there's nothing we can do about that cost this year.
Yeah, let's
So maybe
move.
we have that conversation at a different
But I do
time.
like the idea of pursuing potentially doing the library tax.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
So that,
that's
you know,
it's a very valid topic we need to cover.
Denise, what's your thought on that?
So our idea to make this work, when we were looking at things, was gonna be a 1.2 general fund increase, so that was the 0.44. And then we had the idea to do a 1.5 temporary tax to pay the equipment and park. You'll be taking out, if you do a library tax, you'll be taking out, say that, what was it, 57,
I don't like the county
58?
stuff in something else. It looks like the township's getting the money, and we're not. It's just a pass-through.
That's what, I would rather have it designated.
So we can,
It's about 60 if you count in the county library, which we could use that money for also, right?
right, so even, let's do a little fun play here, right? Let me save the changes we've made.
So then we take 60 out of the general fund.
Let me go to the revenue and, no tax increase there. What was I thinking here, Brett? Oh, we're gonna remove, so we're almost to the end, right? Even if we remove that piece, let's get rid of the libraries.
I think the rest was,
You're still over 65,000 in a deficit before we even finish out. So, I mean, that would, you'd have to increase your tax to cover that 58. So we'll say roughly, we'll say a
Three-quarters
mil.
of a mil.
Okay. So you still have to increase,
Another 3/4 of a mil. That's 1.5.
and to cover this, you're still gonna have to increase a mil.
Cover what? No, that, I counted that.
Oh, that's 65?
Yeah.
So if, let's go to revenue. So what would that make this? So the 2.98 plus 1 would be the 3.98, and then,
you're throwing out numbers, I'm not sure what,
Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
not
so
following.
here, we're looking at changing the mills to see how this would play out. So this plus an additional mill, right, to cover the library? Oh, it says false.
You did an equals.
I know.
Yeah.
So that to cover the library.
So that's with the,
But that's not making it a library tax. That's pulling it in with no discount, right? That's assuming all face value right there. And that's pulling it into the general fund. If we put it into a special tax levy, I have to do a whole new spreadsheet because it's gonna take out, that's the whole mill being put into our general fund, and then we'd pull out the library. If we do the library tax of whatever it might be, we have to put that in its own special fund because that, what we're doing right now is including it into all of the tax. How do I explain that better?
Yeah, I'm just lost on that.
Oh.
Is it the same thing as the fire?
No, the fire we've pulled out separately because that, the 1.7 accounts for, we put in a
It's the
discount
same
and
with the
everything.
streetlights. If you put a 1 mil tax on for the library, that tax is
If you
money
do a
in, money
special
out.
levy, right, because this is taking the 77,000 out of the budget for general fund, not the 58. Does that make sense? I'm adding in money here that you're gonna get.
So, what it is pretty much the way, so far, the way you guys are describing it, it's gonna be an in and out. You guys want what goes in, what comes out. That's not gonna help in the aspect of there's still other
Oh, I see
deficits
what
that
you're
we
saying.
don't have accounted for now.
This is just a
Because she
quick-
took away the completed.
Right, but it's a designated tax what people will
Which-
see, and if they see that their tax goes up by half a mil
Oh,
or 2
yeah.
mils or whatever, they can see where that.
Not a bad idea.
That's
I'm
not
just
money
saying.
we get.
Right.
Right.
We
but-
don't keep it. We have these obligations. I mean, we might as well put a Pitney Bowes copier tax on here too.
This,
I mean, we don't get to keep any of that stuff. People think that this township, well, first problem is, and I know because I sat in Denise's chair, people call in and they complain about their school taxes and they blame the township for that. Okay, that's the first big issue. And then you tell them what the real estate taxes are and they don't believe you because you got your county and township. And Brett, I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, yes.
So if we got it listed out, broken out on that form, say, pull out your form, here's what we send to the library, here's what we send to Center Region. You know, these things we have contractual obligations with. If you don't like it, come in here to the township, fill out a form and complain, and maybe we'll do something, maybe we won't.
So basically then, if you go ahead and put back the library,
okay, yes, which we've done.
and so what is that, what's our deficit, 60?
Yeah, no, that's with no tax increase right now. That's where you're at before we
Okay.
finish just what we've done.
Well, we need to do a little more thinning down, I think.
I don't know
I don't
how
think you're
much
gonna
more
get it
thin
in
and
these
down we're gonna get, Dave.
$1,500
No.
differences.
I mean, I think we did a pretty darn good job of slashing, where we think we can slash, and, you know,
This is with the fire tax of 1.7.
Yeah.
So we're still short about 125.
yeah.
Yeah, bring it down from 380 to
Right.
125 is,
Find it hard to believe that we allowed this township to get in the mess that it's in. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not faulting anybody here.
It's a couple of purchases, though, it's not, it's,
It's right. We have
But we
have a
bought
car
things we
loan.
could
Capital
not afford to
purchases.
buy. And now we have to suffer.
If we needed those things, we would have raised the tax then.
We
just
would have
weren't
raised the tax
dil-
then.
We weren't.
so
diligent
it
with
would have
that.
had to have been paid for somehow. And this is we're reacting to that purchase versus being proactively taxing.
And we're
So-
If
losing.
you buy a $400,000 house, you go back to your boss and say, well, I can't really afford this house, maybe you just give me a raise so I can make my mortgage. Because that's what we're doing to the people right now.
It's not. It really
No.
we've gone so long,
Yeah.
and to not raise taxes has been fantastic, and that's great.
I guarantee you that if taxes have been raised all the time, all that money would be all sucked up in previous budgets as you go along.
Well, of course, if you have
sure, but
money,
we
you're gonna
haven't
try
been-
and
we-
use
We
it.
never did it, so that's a scenario that didn't happen, that's,
And remember, we want to have a capital equipment and a capital building and all these funds so that we're purchasing things where we
Proactively.
have the money for it, and then, rather than incurring debt, and in
I
order
would
to
love to
build
have the money
those.
ahead of time. If we know what we're gonna do, then we plan for it.
Well,
And I know everybody at the table in this room knows it, that, you know, before you buy something, you figure out how you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
We've spent it all, and now we need to determine how do we move forward and
Right, but we
build
got-
those reserves
We
back
gotta
up
figure out how
at
to
some
fix
point.
this mess so the township can function.
Which, again,
That's what we're doing.
And then one of the other things that we need to fix is that, retirement plan there. How many zillions is that?
so let's talk about that for a
Yeah,
second.
that's the
Because I think it's
only-
important that you have a better understanding of what that really is. We're gonna go over that on Thursday. To put this is not your personal debt, right? When you have personal debt and you get something that would say you're underfunded, you're right, bond ratings, all those kind of things, right? You said our credit score as a township's like 400. What you have to understand is that doesn't affect that at all. What that is separate from our bond rating or our debt or our ability to borrow. That is saying we're 66% funded. That's where an alarm goes off and somebody says, hey, if you don't fix some things, you're gonna be worse off in a couple of years. What we had to do is provide a report that says what our plan is. And that $2,000 a year for the next 5 years is a very minor increase, but it will bring that funding level back up. And what also helps is any new employees are going to be in this defined contribution plan, not a defined benefit plan. Those two things together are fine. A level 2 distress is not a big deal. We have a very clear plan to get out of it, which is better than most municipalities. I asked our PSAT's trust investment advisor, Brian, you had asked, what's that a number that makes us back into funded? That's not something that we just put in and it's good to go. That's something that has to happen over time because these investments get graduated. There's thank you. I don't know why that skipped my head. But those are those kind of things that we're not going to put $10,000 in a budget for now and think it's going to get corrected. That's something that I kept at 2,000 after having a discussion with our advisor, and he said, yeah, that is perfect. Keep it that way, and we're right on track to get to the fact that we can continue.
Right, but
Okay.
currently we got a manager, we got a municipal clerk, we got a roadmaster, and a roadmaster's assistant, who are all under the old program that are gonna retire.
Yes, but not for years. And that funding level that we're bringing it
Yeah,
back
they're
up
not at
to,
retirement age.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
got
they're
10
not
or
near
15
retirement
years.
age.
our retirement age on that plan is 65.
Right, well, now we have two people that are retired drawing off that plan, and it's hurting.
That, I invite you to come and take a look at our summit statement and see how much money is in that plan and see the increases, and we can set up a meeting, Dave. I am not worried about that in the least. What we are doing are the right steps to move forward so that we're protecting the township moving forward, but we're still handling the obligations that we've made to these employees.
And I'm confident if you consulted somebody from PSATs about that, and they said that if you have that plan, 2,000 a year for the next 5 years.
And there was an auditor that, I can't remember who, I can go through my emails, but he even checked with that auditor to
Okay.
make sure this was okay. Like, this
Thing
is,
I don't know how much money actually goes out. But I know by the time that everybody else retires, there's gonna be a lot of money going out because Scott, Amy, and Mike are all about the same age.
right, and,
So we're gonna get like the big whammy.
but we got hit with COVID and with everything else. This is being managed. And so putting
We don't have to
10,000,
fix it right this minute.
well, but putting
but-
$10,000 isn't the
It's-
solution to this. We have a plan to fix it. There are different items going into it that are making it okay. What I want you to understand is this doesn't affect our ability to borrow. This doesn't affect our bond rating.
Good.
This doesn't affect those things that,
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not gonna borrow a dime for this township until we get our stuff under control.
and you know my theory, I don't want to have any debt.
Right.
I don't want to buy something unless I have the money for it. But this doesn't affect our ability to borrow. It doesn't affect our Moody's rating, any of that kind of things. We're solid there.
I personally don't care about our Moody rating. What I care about is the solvency of the township. And as long as the township is solvent, you probably never hear from me. But when the
So this-
township's
getting there.
upside down,
No, we're getting
This
there.
doesn't have any effect on that, is what Denise is saying.
So just keep the 2,000 and we're.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that kind of skipped us ahead. So this employee contributions for retirement, these things, I updated this number. This is the defined contribution plan, fees and liability. We took out the the public works guy, and I made a recommendation that we do you'll see this on Thursday, a 6% match. So that's a 6% instead of a 3, which we had, and an additional person. The liability insurances are what they are. The HRA reimbursement dropped because we got rid of the person for Public
Ah.
Works.
Okay.
I kept that for 2022 though, in hopes that we can hire somebody then. This other meetings,
We can drop. I don't think we're gonna have too much going
Yeah, I
on.
don't
I think
think
I'd be
so.
okay with 1,000.
if we shifted back and we just stick with our strategic plan and stretch another year, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
As far as I'm
Thousands?
concerned, that can be set to 0.
0 or 1,000.
I vote 0.
What does it cover?
Any type of meeting, so if we have a town hall meeting or if we need some extra meeting.
Should leave 1,000 in there just in case we need it.
We don't have to use it.
Yeah, exactly, we don't have to use it.
I mean,
If we
this
don't
isn't
use it,
gonna,
we Put it back in the budget for the next
let's be
year.
realistic, even if we drop this isn't fixing your overall problem.
No,
Okay, so the transfers, this transfers to park is 37. That goes back to this lovely little debt
Yep,
statement we
yep,
showed you,
yep,
right? Our
yep.
ins and our outs need to match. If we get this right, it goes fine for the rest of the funds, and then we can review those. The transfers to equipment, it's 30,000. That keeps our ins and outs. And then everything else for the payroll expenses, I just took out the public works employee. So you're down to 123.
That's with the fire tax.
Yes.
That's with the fire tax and everything thrown into liquid fuels. So let's save and do I mean, we're almost at 8. Let's do a quick, the 1.02 that we said suggested for just general fund before anything else.
Okay.
What was that, what's the millage on that?
That would make your general fund millage point, or 0.4 or 4. So right now it's 2.98
Okay.
for general fund. We're suggesting 4.0, which is an increase of 1.02. Now you had talked about taking a library tax. We can look at that, right? If we did a 1 mil library tax, it's gonna take that 58 out of your budget and get you to a very comfortable level, I would say. And it's not putting it in the general fund. It takes that money out of your general fund and you'll have some excess in your library account that you could donate to the library.
If you take the total taxes to 4 mills, that gives you 46,317, right, to the
Yes.
good?
No, we're still negative.
Or we're still negative,
Yes.
4 mills.
Yeah.
Yep.
The problem, Dave, really is at this point, because of the loans, we're gonna need 67,000 in those alone every year till they're
Well, the
paid
park
off.
costs $45,000 a year in maintenance and mortgage payments. Now, that in and of itself is not that much money. It just seems like, I don't know how to explain it. We always had excess money left over at the end of the year. We always had hundreds of thousands of dollars to operate into the following year.
Well, that's
We've
if
been
you
deficit
don't- That's if
spending.
you don't provide anything additional for your community. In the past year, 2 years, we have a new building, we have new equipment, and we have a new park. So we have provided a lot of additional stuff for the community without having extra income to pay for it. So it's not, again, it's not like anything went awry necessarily.
How much
just
reserve
wasn't
cash do
planned.
we have in the general fund?
We don't have reserves.
You don't have any reserve.
No, we don't have reserves. We have balances and we estimated, so right now, as of the end of the third quarter, we had 614. Now we have other expenses that are coming out in the rest of the year. We estimate that's gonna be about 425 by the end of the year. And then all these are, again, these balances, when you look at equipment capital reserve, that 50,000,
Most
that,
of it's going.
yeah, by next year, that covers next year's payment to a portion and the rest of this year's.
Wait a minute. You got equipment capital reserve fund in there. Is that a separate fund?
So like we said, if you go, we'll go to other funds later,
We're still on general fund.
but if you look at equipment, our estimated end of year balance is 22,000. That's not enough to pay our 28,000 that we have in a loan payment next year.
How
And
much
then
money do
again-
we owe on equipment?
What did we say the whole thing was? We took out 125 or something? We owe this 28,516.30 for the next 4 years. 115.
So we owe $500,000 for the park, $115,000 roughly for equipment.
Yep.
No wonder we're all screwed up.
And that's,
I mean, it's really not that bad.
The fire tax of 1.7 and a 1.02 increase leaves you with 46,000 to find, and that's not that bad.
No.
I mean,
Over half that park was funded by grants and things too.
But again, Dave, the thing is, in the years past, there haven't been that many additional things. And so you've been able to operate and keep money because you haven't done, there wasn't anything new going
Got the
out.
parkland for $50,000. I got the ball field built for free. I got the trees
That's in the
donated
past.
by the
Yeah,
citizens.
That's
the
in the
thing.
past.
All
Long
this stuff
time
is in the
ago.
past. That's not gonna help us
No.
moving forward.
It's not gonna help in the
Also-
past, but it's just trying to be careful with the public's
I
funds.
understand
Sure.
that, but we also have to realize that part of the reason why this building reconstruction was so costly is because no money was put into this building for a really long time. And then we ended up having mold issues and a complete gut and
Hypochondriacs.
renovate. You know, you have to take care of the things that you already have in place. And if we've paid for the park, we damn sure better maintain it. Otherwise, it was just a waste of however much money we spent. Same thing with the equipment we have sitting over in Scotty's garage. You got to maintain this stuff.
I agree.
We need to move forward and try to solve these problems rather than just dwell on how we got here. I do understand we have to be aware of how we got here, absolutely. So we don't
I
make
don't
that
want
same
us to get
mistake
here
twice.
again.
We
When
will
we
not.
solve the
that.
problem, I don't want to
But
be
what
back
I'm
here
saying
5
is
years
we
from
can
now
have a
going,
more
"We're back."
constructive conversation moving forward if we concentrate on fixing the
Right,
problem.
but we don't want to ignore
So,
what happened.
I
Those who
understand
fail
that.
to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and I don't want to repeat it.
What we have is a potential fire tax and 1.02 general fund tax.
Right, and that leaves us with a shortage of 46,000, which,
Well, there's your library tax, throw that on there, and then where does it put us?
so we'll have to figure out what the library tax
Yeah.
would be, but let's take the library out. Hold on before we do anything. Save. So if we take the library tax out, all right, that throws you in
Positive.
a positive position, and that 12.
I
I'd
mean,
rather
sure,
be
we'd-
somewhere around there because,
sure.
again, Bob makes a really good point. We've purchased these things, park, equipment, whatever, to not maintain them, you're going to end up in the exact same position you are now.
10 years.
So while we've cut a lot of little things from the budget, some of this we have to be very
And-
cautious about how we
And
cut.
one thing I also want to be cautious is about, even though I don't like doing this either, however, it's kind of like what we did with the building. If you don't maintain, even with the taxes, if you don't maintain over so many years, you're gonna have to drop it at some point
Well,
and drop a load
The
on
trouble with
the-
this building
Wait,
was,
hold
it
on.
was a hunk of
Hold
junk.
on, please. This would get us to a certain point this year. We slashed and burned a lot of budgets that we would want to make sure might need to be in place in subsequent years without the money to pay for them. So I just want to be cautious of, we're only looking at 1 year, but if we do make decisions about raising taxes, we should look past next year. Because we slashed, and if we put everything back that we need to do, zoning, planning, whatever, we're gonna be in a deficit again in 2022.
Two scenarios for
see.
2022. One, COVID-19 goes away and the economy kicks back into gear. What kind of number would that be for this year if we had our full amount of earned income tax? Where would we be?
Okay, hold
Hold
please.
up, hold up.
Before the end of 2021.
Hold please. Okay,
Revenue,
so before we do any changes with mills, or do you want to keep that?
Well, save it, call it scenario A.
So-
What I'm trying to do is see if the economy improves in
Okay.
2021, and then things won't be so tight because our earned income tax
you're
money will
right,
be back.
you're right.
So
Okay, but if it
average
gets
reduced by
worse, we have to
15?
be prepared for both scenarios.
Yes.
It could stay the same.
It could. So put it back to, like, if it was like 531 again, like same as budget this year maybe? Oh, no, this year's not a great year. What's last year?
So
Previous year.
here's all I did. I took,
It's roughly $140,000. So we'd have
there you go.
$140,000 extra
yes,
that we're not counting on now, and that's a lot of the things that we went through
It
and
could be, yeah.
purged. And then we're back in good shape, and we can pay our bills, and we don't need the extra or whatever. I mean, I would love to get the debts paid off. These debts are not helping us. You know, it's expensive enough to have a park and maintain it, as we all know,
Mm-hmm.
compared to making $40,000 a year payments on
Yeah.
on the park.
But then I will also go back to this, to kind of stay out of debt, you have to put money away.
Right.
yes,
We
and,
gotta
and
start
If we keep having a zero balanced budget, you're never gonna put anything away.
Right. But here again, we're asking to take more money from people who are not working right now to pay bills. And I really,
know.
really, really have a hard time with that.
Well, that's true. There,
No, there
there's
isn't.
never a good time.
I have a question about
You increase when you need it.
The taxing issue, and how okay, so we pull out a fire tax.
Yes.
So basically, right there, we're already raising taxes because that becomes a separate tax, but we're holding our general tax at the same level. So if we do that with the library as well, I guess in 2022. So we have these two, so folks can look on their pay stub or tax statement or whatever, so they can see exactly what those dollars went to, correct?
Yes.
But they're still gonna notice that our general fund tax went from. no, they
298
wouldn't.
to 4?
Yeah,
Yes. And we can explain exactly what we need that
yeah,
money
'cause
for.
that's the thing, I just don't want anybody trying
Yeah.
to, or thinking that we're trying to hide a tax increase
Right.
and disguise it as something else, because that's not what we're doing here.
Oh, no, not at all.
You know, if we were to do and I'm saying this more for anybody who might be watching, we need to raise the taxes, but we need to do it in a way where as I said, you can see where your money's going. So I think that will be easier pill for people to swallow. But I'm with Dave. I mean, we have to really try to work and like you commented earlier, you know, once you raise taxes, then it never
don't
gets
go away.
reduced.
Wait,
But you know what?
They do.
They do. There's things called
'Cause
tax cuts.
we have-
And
we
if
have
we
it.
can get into a position where we would be able to cut taxes, I'd be all for it because, you know, if we do end up raising taxes on this township, we're not only raising taxes on just the folks of the township, we're raising taxes on ourselves as well. You know, so I don't wanna pay
Oh,
anything
3 mills,
extra.
that's because the county reassessed, 3 mills became .31. That's why 93 whatever that is, 93-16 is 3 mills.
right.
And the next one is because the county reassessed, because the county was at its maximum taxing limit. And so when they reassessed, now you can start adding millage back on again. That's the trick to that game. So we went up, and then I remember we raised taxes to 3.72 because everybody else in the center region was doing it. We didn't need the money, but that's why we did it. So the
There's-
taxes
there's
bounce
also
around, but generally
second
we're
reason.
at 4.98 now.
We can get into some other things about how we can go back to the open space referendum, because we've done 100
No,
years.
not gonna touch that.
The other supervisors might be interested in this.
Yes.
So there is the possibility that we can go back to referendum for the open space, because we do have the ability. We did a 100-year projection on what it would cost to pay out all of our leases, and we have enough that it's a possibility we might want to look into going back
Taking some of that.
and and looking at if that were to come into the general fund, how to pay out 100 years worth of leases and be able to use the 500,000 if we don't have permanent purchases in other ways. So there's some play in there that we can look at, but it doesn't mean that open space will stop. It doesn't mean that the program
read Act
ends. It doesn't mean we
153?
don't pay it. It just means there are some things that we might want to consider about pulling that into referendum in future years.
Thank you for articulating that much better than when I did 2 years ago and had a whole bunch of people come to a meeting and want to bring me up because I suggested it. That is what I meant. I didn't mean I wanted to raid the
Yes.
open spaces
No.
fund. No, I understand we have obligations on the leases that we have signed, but maybe it's time to stop signing new leases because really we're running out of properties anyway.
yeah.
You know, so I'm
So,
completely open to
Okay,
that.
so our next steps.
So we're at,
There's no other budget meeting planned, right?
no, there is.
Oh,
So
there is?
we have
Thursday.
the idea, well, we were hoping
that's
we would
right.
get this worked out today.
Mm-hmm.
So on Thursday, the hour before a regular meeting, we would just go through the other funds.
And then we have one more day
After that.
scheduled if we need it.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember,
We-
this
we
is
need it.
to get
I'm
your
sure.
draft budget. So
Right.
all that means is what we put on public display for people to view and then have a comment period, and you still have to do
And
adoption.
here's another thing that I would definitely like to do. Can we proactively put some things out there about getting our citizens here at meetings or get some public comment? I want to be proactive about, budget time. Please come take a look. Lots of discussion happening. I would love to have some residents here or provide comments.
Tomorrow, we can throw out a whole bunch of flags about,
Yes.
please show up.
Yes. And I don't know, when's the last time we actually did the email newsletter?
We haven't done a newsletter
Yeah,
because
Okay.
now we have Facebook.
I know, but I
Or
think there's a lot of
website
people via email that
Yeah.
used to get those. I think it's worth I mean, it's cheap, it's free. So whatever mechanism we can get to alert people, because that's one of the things that I know in the past years, if there's important things going on, I want citizens to know. Not just a regular, here's the agenda for the meeting.
We also, it should be noted that our listserv, when we switched to Office 365, we couldn't recreate that. So we asked people on the website to go back up and sign up. So,
Okay.
so our listserv is down to a minimal, but what we've been doing is,
Signed up.
I
Okay.
am not a fan of the Stormstown neighborhood being our website on
Me neither.
Facebook.
Me neither.
Because I'd like people to start coming to our website for information, although I think it's a fantastic website. I don't want it to be the township's
No,
Yes.
it's not.
communication vehicle.
Exactly.
So I'm willing to put out on there that they need to come to this budget meeting now. But again, we're encouraging people to sign up and we'll let people know every possible way we can. We don't want any idea of, we're hiding anything, and this is CNET, there's
Yeah,
transparency.
exactly.
We
Right.
can
Spend
even-
18 grand a year not to hide anything.
Yeah,
Yes.
any way we
And
can
if you
get,
got COVID-19, stay home.
Right, yes.
yeah,
but yes,
we want
because-
people to come, and the more input, sadly, most budget meetings in municipalities are attended by none of the public, and it's what affects them the most.
Yes. And I would love their input on some of these items
Well,
specifically.
most municipalities aren't looking at a 2 mil or 2.5 mil real estate tax increase either. So,
Okay, so do we have time? So here's what we need to do also. We need to chew on this quite a bit.
Yeah, and Denise, do you have any of those scenarios that you had last time for the two different ends of the homeowners, like what this tax would
We ran it,
be?
so just as is, hold on, what are we saying here?
With
So
what you
just as
proposed.
is with the 1.7 and the fire tax and the 1.2, we did run numbers, hold on, I have that. And,
Isn't it the
And-
same as this?
yes, but here's what we found out. When we
Okay.
did an analysis of everything line by line by line.
Yes.
250 assessed value is our high end.
Right?
We said it was middle.
Oh,
Oh.
it's high end.
Yeah, that's our high end.
Oh.
Okay, so if we have middle and low, that'd be
Oh, that's
helpful.
good, right?
So
But
with
then that
this,
affects our
Wait,
total
wait.
number of income off of it, doesn't it?
No, this is for the real estate.
this is, yeah,
is
so the
so
real
different.
estate tax
Accessory sale.
increase, any real estate
Accessories.
millage. So we have basically there are three properties in the township that kind of have that high end
Yeah.
of the 250. So let's go with that. Currently at the 4.98, so that's two open space mills and then 2.98 general. They are paying $1,245. At a
plus
fi-
income tax.
This is just our tax.
this is our tax.
Right, but we have earned income taxes.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with us.
That's not us, that goes somewhere else.
No, we get 0.5 or 0.5%. Don't we?
So this is just our millage rate on real estate.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
whatever other taxes people have, this is just what we're assessing at the 4.98. That's the 2.98 general and the 2 open space. If we put a fire tax to that high-end property owner, it's $425 a year to pay for fire. For the 1.02 general fund increase, it's an additional $255.
Yeah, and that's the high end.
That's the high end.
That's the high
Now,
end.
we did a low-end property value, and the low-end property value is about $84 for fire a year, and $50 to the general fund,
That's
the
a
1.02.
month?
A year.
A year.
That's a
That's
year.
a year.
Yeah, that would be what their tax bill would say.
That,
Middle of the road is.
Meaning that's the increase, not total tax.
that's the increase, an additional $50, and then the high end, an additional $255.
Yes.
A year.
A
Well,
year.
let's count though, that we're also asking them to pay that additional $425 fire.
Yes.
Or 84.
Yeah,
Or
or conversely, yeah.
Again, and that is straight fire.
Yeah.
That goes to nothing else. That's a
Right.
very defined,
So that's only $80 to 600 and,
so all in all for
yes,
both,
yeah,
about 134
$134 on the low end.
on the low end.
to 680 on the high,
680 on the high end per
Yeah.
year. That's,
per year.
and that gets us what we need
All except for-
grandfather or grandmother will have
All
to eat
except for that
cat food or something.
46,000.
for $130 a year.
Well, that's what they say on TV. That's how bad it is.
I don't feel like it's that bad.
Not when it hasn't been raised for 10 years.
And, I mean, I don't, unless we hear something otherwise, I don't know. I don't know the breakdown of the housing assessment values, like what percentage do we have in this area, this range, this range?
If,
So the middle
hold
of
on,
it would
I
be
can
like
give,
about
I can
300
pull up a
year.
chart, but I would like to take this off.
Go ahead.
So I can,
Nope.
I can make sure people's names aren't on it.
So that's $11 a month on the low end. An additional $11 a month.
I'm just gonna hide these two.
And it's safe to assume that a house in that median area in the middle would be half of what that
Yeah.
large total is. So it would be like $340 on a house, on a reasonably priced house that most of us live in. So,
Okay, so this is assessed values of our homes in the township. This is a list of all of our homes. If you see this discounted mills, that's if you have 1 mill implemented, a discount gives you about 77. So 1 mill not discounted at face is 79. And this is, so that you need just over a half mil yet, somewhere figured. But if you look, these $250,000 assessed value homes, our median is somewhere in the 500 range here. Well, out of the 1,100, yeah, we're gonna be around the 600, 500, 600. You can see, our assessed value homes are roughly in the 80s for most. The lower end,
You're only looking at 1 mil. You're not looking at the total.
no, this is an assessed value.
That's the assessed value.
This is their actual assessed value for the home, for every property within the township. So,
I would love to do, I would love that spreadsheet and do a median and a pie chart that has percentage in certain brackets, just so we would have more information
Exactly.
to
I'd-
residents to say, this is how it'll affect 30% of you, 60% of
Good
you,
idea.
10% of you.
And I'd like the school district taken off the pie chart because, like I said,
Just
it's a
ours,
seven-headed
just ours.
hydra, I guess, because that's how
Yeah.
many board
Chart
members
strictly
there are.
on
You can't do
municipalities.
Just
anything with that.
ours. I would love to see that sort of breakdown so we can anticipate how many residents are in these buckets and how will it affect them. So
Okay.
really like high level. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Brett, you got that?
Yep, I was gonna say,
Do
that's
you?
my chart, so
Okay,
I
good.
can make it whatever you guys want.
And let me know, because I have immediately, like, what I'm thinking of would be a good picture for us especially, but then also to be able to communicate out.
Yeah, it's a good
If-
explanation
If this
tool.
is if this is the direction that we're going.
This with all our revisions on it?
Yeah, I didn't want to do a whole
No.
printout, and I'm not going to do the additional funds.
I know. We got $28,000 for computer upgrades we can't use.
I will get a general fund one update, but not the additional funds, because we still need to.
So what do we decide on the taxes here?
We didn't necessarily.
Well, we
but
didn't decide, but if we,
Fire.
I would at least like to know.
if you
for
add a
my
fire
chart.
tax,
I'm sorry, Brett, what would you say?
For my chart, I'd like to know at least what you guys would like to see in it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I can give you by different taxes you were thinking. I can give you the fire by itself, the library, the whatever.
Go ahead, Dave. What do you think? Fire, general, library?
I don't want to increase the general tax. I'd rather call it a library tax, a cog tax, and a fire tax.
What's a cog
Uh,
tax?
The
I would,
cog.
so when,
I'm
also,
not into
when
that.
you put certain levies in, you're also limiting to, you must spend it on that thing, which is
Right.
great in
But
some
we don't have to give them
instances.
all the money, do we?
No, which is great in some instances, but with the library tax, we'd want to get it as close to possible, because while we can have an extra donation, if we end up running a, gigantic $300,000 balance, we can only spend that on library. which is what happened in open space. So
Yes.
we wanna make sure that
Be
we're,
smart about what we're doing.
right, so
yes.
while it might be a general fund increase, there are certain ways that it should be spent, and there should be fund policies, so there should be, even though this is coming in, this amount gets transferred to this every year. So,
Right, but we can change that tax every year, or eliminate it.
absolutely,
at any time.
absolutely.
I want, if I'm gonna raise taxes, which I really don't wanna do, and I wouldn't be doing it, but I know I'm not gonna get my way. But if we're gonna raise taxes, then I don't wanna raise the general fund at all. I wanna specifically designate these taxes for these other services we're paying for.
Then I can give you this chart with it at 298, and if you find a different way to make it so that we are,
In the
Well,
plus.
if you pull out the COG, the library, and the fire, we should be all
But we
right.
can't, we're contracted. So we can't.
No, we're
No,
gonna
I
pay
think he's
them.
talking about splitting up the tax.
The
There's only
millage.
certain things you
But-
can levy
Oh.
taxes on.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't
If
think
it
we can
takes
do
two
that with
mills
the
to
COG.
operate the COG, then put 2 mills for the COG. If it takes a
we
mill
can't
point,
implement, yeah, and Patty makes a
much of a
point, you
sliding-
can't, there's only certain taxes that you can implement, and it's outlined very clearly in the second-class township
oh, I know what
code.
it says.
So we can do an EMS tax, we can do a fire tax, we can do a tax for the park to make that
Then
a
do a
special
park
tax.
tax.
But we can't just do a COG tax.
Can't put the blame where the blame goes. Well, then do a park tax.
Dave, what blame are you talking about?
We got money in here to operate our township, and we're sending money out other places,
That helps us operate our township.
sometimes.
Or we have to have additional staff costs.
I don't,
It's either gonna be paid for
I
somewhere
don't
there
agree,
or
but
somewhere
that's-
here.
that's okay.
Okay, so, do we have to say the specific, like, if you wanna do a specific, what did you call it, library or?
I could really run
Fire.
a general pie and piece out those things that you
Yeah,
can
if you wanna
consider
do that,
extra
I'm okay
taxes
with
for.
Yeah, let's do that.
Then that's what I'll do. I'll run one
Now, when you
general
talk
and
about
I'll
the
piece
park,
out-
it's a park payment, but it's also $7,000 for spongy things and another $1,000 for general
So why
maintenance.
don't we do this, this 46,000, if we make the assumption of the 1.02 for the general fund and the 1.7 for fire, that gets us to this 46. If you look, the park would be 37, and we can implement a library tax that is less than the amount that we,
To just help.
right,
Did you already take the library out of there, though?
no.
Oh,
This is,
oh,
this
that's
is-
right, that's right.
This is with the library
Okay.
because it is
That's right.
a balance that we need to have. All we would be doing is transferring that money like I did with the liquid fuels.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be taking it out of the general fund and it will be going into a different fund. But we want to make sure that what we're paying out is what we're getting in, right? We can have a whatever comes in goes out, exact amount. And it can be less than what is required to support the libraries.
Do we want to explore?
I like that better, and the reason you're saying
Part-
that is so that we're not tied, that we have more flexibility
Yes.
and we don't have to, and it's actually gonna be the same pretty much for the taxpayers, but it gives us more leeway to control.
Right, and then we can evaluate it on a yearly basis. Okay,
Yeah.
this is how much we got in and it took out of our general fund to pay for the library, right? Because it
Yep.
doesn't have to 100% fund the
Cover it.
library. But if we look at a park tax to cover this 37, right? And then that comes out, and we look at a library tax to handle the
Make it to
balance,
zero.
right? Then that might be a possibility. Do we want to move forward for, what is it, Thursday with that assumption?
Yes.
Which assumption?
1.02 general fund, 1.7 fire, a park tax to get rid of that 37,000 required. So whatever that millage would be at discount, we'll do another, just to bring in that 37 that would be required to transfer out. And then whatever the balance is down here. So
Determine what's necessary.
enough that we
And
can
then that
collect
would-
about 10,000 in library.
Without having a separate library tax.
No, it would be a separate
It would-
library
oh, it
tax,
would be.
but we'd need to figure out that millage based on the fact that we'd need an
Well,
additional
if we're gonna
10,000.
give $47,000 or $57,000 to the SLO library, then I think the library tax ought to cover that. And if we bring in some extra, so be it, we can give it to the county, or we can do whatever we want with it, or if SLO's got a special project, and we all agree it needs assistance, which sometimes it does, and we can give that money. That money can be set in a reserve someplace.
It
if we
can,
get-
But you said you didn't want to raise taxes, so this is a way
I
to keep it at
don't.
the minimum, the
But-
bare minimums, to get us to a balanced
But I
budget.
want the public to see where the money's going.
They
And
will.
And
they will, but they're not gonna look at this chart.
what we can do for Thursday to move us forward is I can make it general, piece them together, and then you guys can decide on Thursday what you wanna have as a separate tax levy or what you wanna have as general.
The township either with having
Well,
too
we're not
much
gonna
in it.
hamstring them, cause we're gonna give them the 57,000 of the SLO library or whatever's on the
We
budget.
still have to have enough in the general that we can do certain things with too.
Right.
Right, but if we get the library out of there, the fire company out of there, and the park company out of there, then the general fund technically goes up because we've taken those other expenses off the list and they've been put someplace else.
And if our real estate comes in better than what we're planning too, or the earned income. I mean.
Earned income, right.
Yeah.
And I hope it does.
I hope
You
it does
know,
too, yeah.
I have hope that it's gonna be fine. And if it's gonna be fine, then we're okay. We can correct everything next year. But we don't know that.
Right. If you implement a library tax and we end up getting a huge amount in that we didn't expect, you can, the
You can
2022.
eliminate the tax,
boom.
take the leftover money, send it to the library along with the
Done.
regular fund.
Right, and put it back into the general fund if
But
everything
we
comes in.
know what the library's gonna be, I assume that we know these numbers are
Approximately.
what we're gonna send into the library next year. Correct?
Yeah, we have, this 58 is what we have to send in.
Right, so if we set whatever it is, 0.7 mils for the library, then we know we're gonna send that money to them anyway, so it's not hurting us.
So for Thursday, if you could, whatever you use spreadsheet, make it so that we can play with the millage numbers, because then we can see what we want to do, adjust things, and see what we can come up with. Because if we need,
The 1.02 and the 1.7.
yes.
So just basically, we're trying to figure out this 46.
Is that our goal here, is to figure out how to get to zero?
That's my goal.
I don't wanna get to zero necessarily,
We'd like to have a little bit of surplus.
but I
and
think
we'll have options of how to get there.
we just gotta be careful where we're going.
Of course, of course.
Until we know the economy's back on its
Yes.
feet. You know, if next year we're sitting here and people are losing their homes left and right,
Well, we got something else to deal with, yeah, sure. So let's lay these taxes out on the table, all of them. Park, library,
General fund
fire,
increase.
general fund.
Okay.
Lay them out there, they're the cards that we have to play. Let's see what kind of deck, or what kind of, what do you call it? What kind of hand we can make
So,
that is okay for us and what we think is okay for.
Yeah, based on the
Residents.
total millage increase, I like knowing from low end to high end to
Yes.
middle what the impact of that
Yeah.
is
Yes.
on.
And that's the
households.
pie chart that I
People
have in my
don't
head,
understand
but
millage or percentages, they wanna hear dollars.
Dollars, yeah.
I have a vision in my head, but I'll help you.
Well, and what I'll try and do is I should be able to get to that probably late tomorrow, have it finished, or Wednesday, and I'm gonna send it off
That'd
to
be
you.
awesome, yeah,
okay.
cool.
So I think, again, what we've come up with is 1.7 fire, 1.02 general, and then we're gonna look to see how we
we can
implement.
offset the library, the park, and get rid of, I don't wanna increase the general. I mean, you're increasing it, but I don't wanna increase that number.
We're gonna put it on the table there.
So it could be put onto a special tax.
We'll see what it does.
We're gonna put it on the table, yep. It's on the table,
Still needs in the general budget.
Okay, but we're gonna see what, pulling these out
does.
based off of keeping this 1.7 and 1.02.
I do have one question for you guys. For the park, do you want just the 37 covered to pay the loan payment, or the mulch and the other things to keep it going?
What are we allowed to do?
So you can do for the maintenance, you can have
Yeah.
Put the maintenance on it.
Everything that's involved with the park maintenance.
Sure.
can be a separate park
Operation.
tax.
Yeah.
So anything that goes to either of the two parks.
Right,
Because that'll free up a little more.
and that, I mean, we might be able to just do a park tax and
Yeah.
that's what it is. And that would be until, we pay off the loan, or we can do it yearly and reevaluate. But yeah, we can pull stuff out. The only thing I don't wanna pull out from the park is wages.
Right.
So similar to
No, you
liquid
don't wanna
fuels.
ever put
Yeah.
payroll on
So
that.
as long as you're okay with not,
Oh, yeah.
wait, when we start getting into that, we're getting into some nasty paperwork. I've never heard that phone ring.
I was gonna say, is there a phone
We
in
rang
there?
earlier tonight, yeah.
There's a phone in there, don't know what the number is, but.
Okay, what time is it? Are we? Woo! All right, well, we went line by line. We didn't get to the other funds, but I think, like you said, that's okay, we'll get there.
It'll work out fine if everything
Okay.
else
We
goes.
did a good job tonight. We got that number
Yeah,
drastically lower.
but I
So-
also, I don't know if you can send it to us, I'm fine with email, but if you guys want to print out, I would like us to look at those line items again, now that we went through everything.
When it's done, I'll combine.
Yeah, just kind of gut check on what it looks like.
Okay, so we'll print it out tomorrow, what we've updated, and just the general fund. You can come by tomorrow afternoon, anytime afternoon, I'm sorry, after 1, anytime after 1 and pick up your printout, and then
Wait
we'll,
till Brett calls, because they're putting a lot of stress on that man over there.
oh, just the printout's easy, it's just printing what we have.
Do
Yeah.
you
'Cause
wanna
they already
see my
made the
pie
changes.
The
chart
pie
too?
charts,
Whatever
That's
you wanna
another
do.
story.
we'll email those pie charts. and
We'll
if you
get in
wanna
touch
pick
with
those
you
up.
All
tomorrow, Dave.
right.
We'll give you a call.
Yeah, just-
And I'm
I don't-
okay
How
with
about
you.
you?
I don't need to kill a tree, just.
Do you want
send it
a
in.
coffee?
Be everywhere all of next week, so.
So you're not gonna
just-
be here Thursday?
Yeah, I'm gonna. yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm just saying that I ride up and down the road all day long,
Oh.
but this week I'm running that way.
Ah.
So, but in the office hours, I'll either pick them up or bring my copy along on Thursday and I'll get it before the meeting.
Oh, we'd like you to look at it before the meeting.
There you go.
All right.
Yep, close.
Drop it off.
Okay, we have a plan. Do you all need anything else from us,
So we're
I don't
Thursday
believe
at
so.
6?
other than an adult beverage when you get home?
Thursday at 6?
Thursday at 6,
Thursday at
right?
6, yeah, we have an hour allotted for budget discussions, and then we go right into our regular meeting.
Okay.
What's our agenda looking like? Heavy?
No, not really, let me pull this up for you.
I mean, if it's not finished, you don't have to. Get
I
into
need
detail,
to
just-
do a memo.
Okay.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
So we have this plan that we're probably gonna have tabled, the
Oh.
Wilson plan, because there's some issues there. Approval of bills, and then we've got the defined contribution plan, we're gonna go through those decisions. And we have a sub-recipient agreement with COG for COVID-related expenditures, we'll go over that, that's the memo I need to come up with and stuff. A request for reduction in the community center price, and then an overall plan with Linda Franchuk. And then I need to change this to a possible donation to the Lions Club and Boy Scouts for their help in movie night. Small donation, very small, but something to say thank you.
Yeah, if they helped us, we should slip them something.
Yes.
That's not too bad, okay.
So it's pretty easy. This, like I said, unless something drastically changes, this will probably get.
Now, the budget meeting, we're not adopting anything or
No.
putting it out for advertising.
We haven't even gotten to draft.
We've got to hold a hearing anyway, I
Yes,
guess.
Yeah,
correct.
you have to create the draft, so once you guys come up with a balanced budget and we figure everything out, we have to put it out for draft for public comment. Then the public gets to look at that draft and go, what the heck is this, what's this? I like this, I don't like this, whatever, comments. Then after comments, then we have to look at adoption, we have to advertise and have adoption. We're not even at draft.
Yeah, okay,
We're getting there,
yep,
we're getting there.
good. Do we need anything else before Thursday?
Just need you to bang that hammer so we can all go home.
All right, anything else for the good of the order? Thanks to anybody hanging in there. All right, meeting adjourned.